Hello. Hello. Ugh. Hi. I hate I hate orthography. Jesus. Especially English language one. Okay. Hey. Hey. Hello, all of you here who are here with me together and stuff. Is the sound working? Lucy, you're my sunshine. Orthography is so easy. I know everyone was struggling with typos, so I would often get no mistakes in my essays. I make mistakes in Polish. I make mistakes in English. The only language in which I don't make mistakes orthography wise is Japanese because it has no orthography to speak of. Oh, am I your sunshine, Gabriel Cinemagic? Whoa, Somnio Static. That's right. Sound is easy. Sound is working. Sound okay, good. It didn't work yesterday. It just died forever till I did something and then it worked somehow. But I don't have the mic does not have earphones plugged to it anymore. It's plugged somewhere else now. Because when it was plugged into the thing, it didn't work anymore. What are we doing today? Today we're gonna talk about very depressing topics: war and death and sex abuse scandals with pedophilia in Hungary. And we're also gonna talk about genocide, probably. Are you excited? Are you excited for today? Quack. Also, I went to therapy today. My first therapy session after going to the hospital. Finally, I went privately because to go on the national thing, you need to wait 2 years. 2 years. I can start my public therapy in 2 years. Nice? Is it not nice? Space! Well, what space? What do you mean? What do you mean, what space? It's just while we're. Let me see something. Historia Beskitu. What's here? Destiny. Lauren Chen conversation. Destiny orbiter attacked by defender as insane scandal explodes. Okay, that's cool. Vouch is over. Happy birthday. Oh. Are people really still on that? Still focused on that? Anime girl defends colonialism, not a joke. A video by Baron Panada from 2 years ago about aristocracy. Talking with Dustin about Palestine. What else? The furry extremists. There's nothing really interesting to give you a reaction. Russia wants to try and put nuclear weapons up in space. Oh. Well, that's not a thing that we might take a look into this. Poland might get nuclear weapons in a few years, just so you know. I'm really angry at Vaush, not because of the incident, but because of how he handled it. Well, you know, not everybody is me. Not everybody handles everything perfectly. Israel supporter confronts Destiny for his Palestine takes. There you go. Israel supporters. We're gonna watch that. We're gonna watch our favorite streamer Destiny. And we're not doing that just because we're married and there's this incentive Poland can into space? No, Poland will just get nukes in Poland, not in space. Okay, we're watching My Husband.
Palestinian interest.
You know, kind of.
Here we go. Habibi. Where's the browser? Where's the browser? What if the nuclear weapons blows up in the atmosphere? An atmospheric fallout would happen. An atmospheric fallout would happen. Giggling. What happened? There we go. Destiny. You cannot destroy my destiny. My husbando. Here we go. Our favorite. What if... Enough, can you stop calling him your husband? She's cringe. It's not cringe if it's cold, hard reality. It's not cringe. It's cold facts. In fact, I'm pretty sure Destiny is live now. You can go to his chat and ask. There you go. You can go to his chat right now and ask him. That's right. Fallout in real life. Okay, let's go. Let's get this thing on the road.
I think Netanyahu is also really bad. I think he has been bad.
Yep.
I mean, he's a fascist. Fascists are bad. And I'm not just throwing the term around. If like there's this Polish Jewish genocide expert who has a big blind spot when it comes to Israel. He has a big Israel bias, pro-Israel bias, okay? If he says that Netanyahu is a fascist and that his government is a fascistic government, I think it's safe to trust that he might be into something, considering that he has a, once again, pro-Israel bias, very open pro-Israel bias, you know? And he says that Netanyahu is a fascist. So I don't know what to tell anyone that ever tries to defend Netanyahu.
Hate that I used to give him a little bit of credit from 95 to 99 or 98 or whatever when he was elected. Then he's always been in opposition to Palestinian interests.
You know, kind of.
I don't think it's really functioning well right now, right? I don't think we're in a very tenable situation right now, no?
I mean, it's functioning right now.
It's clearly not functioning right now. You've got people living under essentially a military-style government indefinitely. How is that functioning? The reality is, right now, there is a country called Israel that is occupying the West Bank and the Gaza Strip, and we get a lot of people that are unhappy with the current situation. It's untenable. I don't think Jordan or Egypt, I think we both agree, it's probably more likely that a functional one-state or two-state solution would be arrived at than Egypt and Jordan would both agree to give up territory to the Palestinians. There's just no way that would ever happen.
On the 6-Day War, correct me if I'm wrong, I might have misheard.
Historically speaking, Gaza was supposed to be this in-between zone for trade and commerce. That's why I'm pretty sure that to this day a certain city is cut up and half of it is in Egypt and half of it is in Gaza. That sort of border divide was done by design, you see? If the city is half in Egypt and half in Gaza, that was supposed to make it easier. That was supposed to make the border more fluent in theory, and to facilitate Gaza's role as a transit point for trade from different regions. And of course, in addition, fishing and one other means of gaining sort of fishing trade, and there was one more thing that Gaza had for it when it comes to sort of economy.
When you talked to the Mark guy, you said the Arabic countries, if you look at the time, did not really want to get involved violently with Israel?
No, I don't think they did.
Israel?
No.
Okay, then I missed.
It's Fightcade. It's sort of like this. It's Fightcade. It's like this. It's this internet hub when you play arcade games online with people. It's like a virtual arcade saloon where you can sort of get games that are arcade and people can join in and play you against you online or with you or cooperate you with, for example, beat 'em up games. This is not a sort of offline emulator. This is like an online hub. Technically speaking, any one of you could get Fightcade and like challenge me in Street Fighter free right now. Any one of you could just challenge me.
Heard my bad. So
At any
okay,
moment.
scratch that because I sent you a mail like 3 months ago, an email. There's this.
Yeah, though it seems like his views on Palestine seems to be shifting from what I've heard him say before. He seems to be shifting his views from what I'm hearing now, at least.
Assad plan, if you look at Nasser, he had like a whole plan that was almost executed to invade Eilat, to conquer it from Israel. Had to like be stopped by the Kremlin, like giving him a phone call at 3 a.m. almost 2 weeks before the 6-day war. Definitely not peaceful. I think you even mentioned how unhinged he was in your mouthy debate like 3 months ago. Whatever.
I can't afford Tekken. I mean, you could donate and help me get Tekken.
Okay, so thank you. I misheard. The
Wait,
other
who
thing
was this
is
in reference to?
Mouthy Infidel. You had a debate with him like 3
Yeah,
months
wait,
ago.
I'm sorry. What did you just say? You said that the Kremlin had a call with the leader of, was this to Cairo or to Jerusalem?
Okay, so what I said was one. I basically summarized the Assad plan. It's nothing to do with Syria, whatever.
Oh.
It's just Assad means lion. It was called the Operation Lion. They prepared Nasser prepared to invade Israel and conquer Eilat. 2 weeks
okay.
in the 25th of May. I sent you an email about this. That was after your debate with Mouthy, where you did repeat a bunch of times how Nasser was unhinged and did want to fight with Israel. So
I didn't understand the
never mind.
political maneuvering at the time. I think what was going on was, as ironic, there's like a weird game. It's basically like gooning, basically, where you're trying to edge without
Edge.
coming. And it seems like, or no, wait, that's just edging. I'm sorry. When you're just edging.
What?
It seems like what the Arab leaders were doing for a long time, Nasser included up to this point, where they were basically, their population really wanted to bust a fat load, and Nasser just wanted not to bust a fat load, but he had to edge the population the whole time. So what he was basically doing was, instead of going to war, he would get real tough on his rhetoric and start talking a ton of fucking shit, and he would do all these posturing, all these moves, right? I'll kick the UNE out, these guys. I'm deploying my troops all across the Sinai as a hopes of kind of like
It's okay, we all
pacifying
do.
his
We all
population. Like,
make
look at how
dumb,
strong I am,
like,
guys. We could
choices.
fuck Israel up hardcore. Now, I don't think, especially after Yemen, I don't think that he really wanted that war. I don't think he was necessarily ready for it, but I do think he welcomed it if the Israelis did want to fight. I think he'd be like,
Yeah,
fuck it.
that I disagree with.
Yeah?
That I disagree with. Here. So this is from Michael Oren's book, The 6 Days of War,
Okay.
where he summarizes the Assad plan that was almost executed. I'll just read the relevant chapter. This is from an other article he had called Who Wanted the 6-Day War. So let me just read this. This is translated. Okay. So, in fact, the Egyptians, not the Israelis, were the ones preparing at the time to, quote, set off. As Israeli intelligence suspected, the leadership in Cairo had already approved a major military attack against Eilat and other strategic targets in the Negev. The plan, called Assad, was intended to be carried out the next day, Saturday, May 27th, and would probably have been carried out if Johnson, the president at the time in the US, had not created a warm relationship with the Kremlin and passed on Abba Eban, of course, warnings about the expected Egyptian attack. As a result, Dmitry Pozdiev, I don't know how to say this name, the Soviet ambassador in Cairo, visited Nasser at 3 o'clock in the morning to convey to him Moscow's firm opposition to any Egyptian move to start a war. Nasser immediately called off the attack. So just to summarize, he was almost ready to invade Israel.
Why? I don't understand. You're bringing this up in opposition to my point or to support my point?
Destiny, disclosing our marital secrets and stuff.
Yeah, you said he didn't want to actually get involved in a war, although he already had approved and had to barely stop.
Oh, you're saying that he already. I need to go and look at the details of that again. I don't.
That's fair.
Yeah, I would need to look at the details of that plan because they weren't ready. And I don't think they had the backing yet to do it. And it seemed like that played out pretty poorly. It feels like there was a big drive up in.
In reality, in the real world, countries rarely start wars when they're perfectly ready. It's not like Hitler was perfectly ready to start World War II and yet he did. Like, countries don't start wars when they are ready. Putin was definitely not ready to start war with Ukraine and yet he did. So starting a war is not really a matter of whether or not a country is ready for it. That's not how that works. Ever. In reality.
Rhetoric though to actually like make the population feel strong and blah blah blah, but I think the argument that Shlomo Ben Ami makes is that Syria was the one that actually ultimately ends up dragging Egypt into that war, and it was just or drags them all on the course to war. I think as I say this though, and this is something that I'm trying to be careful about because it is complicated. When I say things like I don't think Egypt wanted to go to war, I say that, and then people agree with that, but that doesn't mean that Israel didn't feel like they wanted to go to the war, and that doesn't mean that Israel didn't have a good reason to feel like they wanted to go to war. So, like, so like they might not have wanted to go to war, but the rhetoric was absolutely poisonous and absolutely vitriolic, and had primed all of these citizens to get ready to fight. That's why the leaders, I think, were goading each other on so much.
Wait, so are you saying Israel or Egypt or both?
I'm saying everybody wanted to go to war. I think everybody was ready for it. But the interesting thing was that Israel poised itself, actually similar to the 48. I think Israel had poised itself not to want to go to war. All of the Arab states wanted to go to war, but Israel was the only one that was actually ready to go to war. And I think that was I think that repeated itself in 48 and in...
Yeah, that's the thing that David Guy in this VC wants to disagree with you about. So just one more thing before that.
Yeah, sure.
This is more of an anti-Zionist talking point that I think is true.
It was not exactly
so on 242, the Security Council resolution, correct me if I'm wrong, you appealed to the idea that it doesn't say the occupied territories, it's just the occupied territories, and that's Israel's interpretation and narrative about this, and it has some legitimacy in interpretation. Now, I think there is some truth to that. If you look at quotes by the people who wrote it up.
Just as a real quick thing, my full position on this is that at the time they fought really hard for. I think Ben Ami says for every word in 242 they fought for. I think he says in relation to this, and the reason why is because initially it was going to be to withdraw from the territories from the recent conflict, meaning all of them. Yeah, and he omitted that word. However, in later peace arrangements that were negotiated. I think it was kind of brought up with Egypt, and then I think it was definitely brought up in the Oslo Accords. Israel seemed to agree to reinterpret that as something having to do with the 67 borders. So in retrospect, it later on kind of got negotiated back. But initially, 242, they didn't even recognize Palestinians as a people who wanted a state. Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know about that.
So keep in mind that the borders drawn up by the UN after the war between Palestine and Israel were not really binding by law. They were not sort of done by the UN Commission that actually sort of has legal power behind it. It was more like a recommendation as to what should happen. It was not legally binding in any sense of the word. It was a recommendation of how the borders should go, to which Israel basically agreed, and the Palestinian side did. Hello. So when we discussed the borders, how they were first sort of drawn up, we should remember that those were a recommendation rather than anything binding, at least from the legal point of view.
know that. What I will say is, I've heard the quote. I don't remember where. I could find it if you give me an hour. I think Loaderbox read it on stream. But the people who wrote the 242 said, yeah, we were pretty satisfied with how we wrote it. We intentionally omitted the you know, the word the from it, and blah blah blah. Now that being said, Khalidi in his book the 100-Year War in Gaza, Palestine, I don't remember the book, but you know, Rashid Khalidi, he points out that, and I have a lot to disagree with the guy, but he points out that in the French version, which is equally official, it does say the occupied territories. In Israel said only the English version it will affirm and you know, get treated as binding, even though the French version does say the. So that's very interesting. Now that I don't know how that meshes with the quote of the other guy saying, yeah, we did intentionally omit the from the English version. Whatever. So that was it. The last thing before you talk to the David guy is when the topic of Abbas's Holocaust revisionism comes up, you often compare it to Benjamin Netanyahu. Now, just so you know, I'm Israeli. I hate the right wing. I'm very much a left wing in Israel. Not like Katie, not insane. Okay, whatever. I'm not. Okay,
Abbas's is definitely worse, if that's what you're going to argue.
Yes. About. Okay. Thank you. So it just feels like a equivocation where, like, Netanyahu's position is like,
I think Netanyahu.
Yeah, that's a wrong fact. That's demonizing, and it's. Go ahead.
I think Netanyahu exaggerates a bit. That original Mufti guy saying that he like gave Hitler the ideas for the Holocaust. I don't think that was true. But the early Palestinians were absolutely warm towards Hitler, and that was a really bad maneuver from the Palestinians to be so warm to cast their lot in with Nazi Germany.
So before.
Well, I would also say that it was quite bad for certain Zionist groups to be quite warm towards Hitler. So, you know, what comes around goes around, or whatever. There were definitely Zionist groups that also cooperated with Hitler. In the middle of the Holocaust, I might add.
David wants to talk to you about like the Mufti and that, and also about the Israel's like the independence war or Nakba, whatever you want to call it. Now, I just wanted to say, like, the point is Netanyahu is definitely wrong. He's been pointed out as wrong. He probably knows, but whatever. But Abbas is definitely worse. He wrote a whole doctoral thesis on his Holocaust bullshit revisionism. So just saying, it's not very equivocal. Now, talk to the David guy who wants to talk to you. So thank you. Bye.
Wait. The other one unhinged thing is I don't understand how that Ben Giver guy is allowed anywhere near any sort of.
No, I agree. I agree. He's a total menace. He's like, I hate him with every fiber of my being.
The idolizing that Hebron shooter is unhinged. I don't even know.
Yeah, Goldstein, of course.
Yeah, I don't know what the equivalent would even be in the United States. Like a president being elected and then having like the Unabomber's picture or some shit in his house. Like, it's just like, it's completely unhinged. Yeah, but sorry, go ahead.
No, I agree. Ben Gvir is like probably the worst person in our government, if not.
I think Netanyahu is also really, really, really bad. I think he has been bad. I actually hate that. I used to give him a little bit of credit from 95 to 99 or 98.
There's actually a whole history of the Zionist groups in Germany being elevated by the regime, by the Nazi regime, and sort of a cooperation established, and all the anti-Zionist groups being delegalized. There's a lot to be said there.
Or whatever, when he was elected, then he's always been in opposition to Palestinian interests.
Again, I think you read this Wikipedia thing. He had coffins when he protested against Rabin. What the fuck, right? No, I mean, my dad loves Bibi. Nowadays, he's critical of him because he thinks he like messed up in October 7th, whatever. But my dad is like the biggest. We fight about this all the time, man. I mean, tell me about it. Now, okay, the David guy wants to talk to you about the Palestinian anti-Semitism.
Why is your wait? Hold on, I'm so curious. Firstly, would your dad ever come on and talk? Secondly,
my dad might. I'll send you an email.
Okay. Also, wait, was your dad ever in the IDF? Like for real, not like the 1 year.
Yeah, he was during the Second Lebanon War. But I mean, it's nothing really major.
How old is your dad? When was he born?
He is 50. I don't remember.
Oh my god, he's like a child. Okay, never mind.
I thought
He is,
I thought
he
he
is.
had some interesting
He
answer.
is.
I need a
Look.
70, 80-year-old guy. Okay.
Looking for,
Some guy
like,
emailed me before who had a grandfather or a great grandfather, but he didn't want to fucking talk to me.
Yeah, but he said he didn't want to come on.
Yeah,
I've
but he
heard
was in
that.
the Irgun, I think, or whatever. Irgun, how do you pronounce that?
Oh my god.
Yeah, and I was like, oh
Ouch.
shit, this would have been it would have been such an amazing conversation to have. But yeah, he said his grandfather,
Yeah.
great grandfather
People don't
wasn't
want to
interested.
talk to
Yeah.
you.
I mean,
People don't
you
like
might
you.
want to talk to right-wing Israelis, but yeah, David wants to talk. I think I'm taking enough time. David wants to talk to you about Husseini,
By the way,
like the
you
Mufti,
can-
and
Yeah, go for
want
it.
to
the
interrupt me or something.
Go
But
for it.
Sure. So one of the things with like Husseini is, and about like the BB thing. To be clear, I fucking despise BB as well. But the incentives and the demeanor of Haji Amin al-Husseini has been like unhinged, beyond unhinged, since like the beginning of his rule in like the 20s and shit, and like inciting riots. When he actually met with like Adolf Hitler, they had a conversation. What it's about is not necessarily known, but it's been reported widely that he talked about the expansion of the Holocaust and like not wanting any Jews to be like transported to Palestine, but rather, and assuming that, I think it's safe to assume, expanding like the death camps. So when he said that like he came up with the death camps, that
Would
is
you ever talk to
absolutely
Destiny about
revisionist,
news,
because
Lucy?
that's not true, because the death
Yeah.
camps are already happening.
Which news?
But
Which
there
news?
is like it wasn't.
I would.
I just
Yeah.
made shit the fuck up kind of thing.
The question is, would he talk to me?
Wait, like you didn't make shit up? Oh, I don't think you made anything.
No, I'm saying like BB, then just like
Oh,
How surprised that people don't want to talk with crazy online streamers. True. My father was a crazy offline person, which is why everybody wanted to talk to him. See? Dark humor. Lucy's little dark humor. It is, however, true that everybody did want to talk to him. That part is true. Everybody did want to talk to my father. And did. Lightning storm. Yeah. Well, he publicly did not say mowing down protesters. Yeah. He actually was, I guess you could say, he was one of the protesters in the 80s. So he was like the opposite of wanting to mow down protesters. He was among the protesters. Oh boy. This needs done all the above. I mean, being in the underground opposition is sort of considered a big deal in Poland. Unless you have big nostalgia for the old regime. My mom was shouted at in the subway once by a person because my mom has like this special document, special legitimation, special like ID that says that she's a combatant, like she was in the opposition to the government. And the controller of the ticket saw it and was like, "Was it really that bad under the old regime? What did you do? Was it really all that bad for you? Huh? Huh? Did you really have to do that?" Scolded my mom. That's a bit funny. It's Disruptor. Shockwave. I'm supreme. But yeah, I guess it's no surprise that some people might be reluctant to talk to Destiny. So what news would I talk with Destiny about? And again, the question is, would he talk to me?
pull something completely out of his ass.
Oh
There
yeah,
was-
no, that's why I'm saying he's probably like exaggerating. Yeah, but okay.
Yeah. Also, one of the things I don't really understand is the why you go back to the argument that like the Palestinians, like they
Yes,
kept
she
being
was.
used and used as if like it was.
Her. Both my parents were active in the solidarity movement, or their sub movements, sort of. Her painting atelier was used as a printing press place for illegal newspapers and books. So my parents basically published stuff together, illegal material. Which is why during the so-called, what's it called, martial law period, the very first day when it happened, my father was arrested, and he was arrested for about a year or something. Although he managed to go out for a little bit at one point, but he was arrested for a year by the old regime. I don't know, I'm just curious. I would assume it's something you know, maybe Israel or Ukraine. I imagine he'd be more receptive to Ukraine stuff. I could talk Ukraine, I guess. Would you like to be my agent and would you like to be my agent and facilitate debate / talk? Many people were arrested from the opposition during the martial law period.
It was only them being used, and they didn't really have that much autonomy to do things themselves. When like, I feel like your analogy of them like being egged on by their friends, but they're still doing like the fucking insane thing that their friends are egging them on to do. Where it's like, I feel like...
Well, because I think if you look at the history of the Palestinians, it's basically them getting fucked by everybody. I think in the early 1900s, they were kind of getting fucked by the British because the British were, and by the Jews. The Brits were allowing Jews to come over. They'd promised them part of that land, and then Jews were buying up all sorts of shit and moving over, and then they started to fight. I think in that big Arab revolt from 36 to 39, the Palestinian Arabs got fucking obliterated by British forces. So that really fucking sucked dick. And then when the Civil War starts in the
One
Nakba...
funny thing about the whole thing is that during the Polish People's Republic times, especially people that were in the opposition, they would have regular revisions of their apartments. Like people from the Secret Service sort of thing from the security office would come to your place, and they would like basically trash your house and look for bad material, you know? And one time, people from the office of security came to our house, and my mom was in, and one of them told my mom, "Oh, I know you. We studied together one subject at university, at the Arts Academy, by the way." And my mom was like, "Well, wait, really? Yeah. We had a subject together at university. I know you." And my mom recently told that story to Huen when we visited the restaurant, and Huen was like, "Oh, so does that mean that the security person, because you studied together, went easy on you or something?" And mom was like, "No, the opposite. He searched even harder." He did the opposite. I don't know, Destiny. I followed him a lot since the JonTron debate that uploaded him to popular internet poll. Oh. Okay. That makes sense. What was... I wanted to say something. Another interesting sort of... Interesting little trivia. Oh yeah! Because me and my brother were sort of... born into a conspiracy family and protesters family. One thing that I remember clearly is that, and she sometimes does it still, so it became a really hard instinct in her, that whenever someone would call on the phone and my father was in, she would like sort of cover the phone and ask him, "Are you here? What am I supposed to say?" Things like that, you know? To ask him if he's at home, available to talk, and what sort of story they're supposed to like you know, collaborate together. Even now, like sometimes when someone called my mom and asked for me, my mom would cover the thing and ask if I'm there. Which is like this little remnant of the times of the Polish People's Republic and conspiracy. Because that was like that was the protocol of talking over the phone, covering the thing and saying, "Are you here? Are you at home? Are you in, or am I am I supposed to tell the person on the phone that you're not home? Hello." Oh. By the way, we had been covering Hungary and stuff like this had been happened. Police going out for opposition in 2014. The opposition is pretty respected in Poland, at least so far, because the opposition in Poland had people from the right wing and from the left wing. So some of the people from the opposition in the 80s became hardcore far righters after the fall of the regime. Also, in 2014, one of my uni had in her thought like 40 plus police officer raiding a small NGO has been caused by the traitors. I read it in the news. Damn. And like in Poland, the opposition members are venerated basically across the board, across the political divide. What else? Oh yeah. When I was small, when I was small, okay, I understand. Foreign influence theory, as always, very, very used by regimes. When I was small, we used to do this little thing when, especially against, okay, I'm not sure if against is the right word. With father, we used to do this thing that when he was really angry and unreasonable, we would create little protest transparents and we would go to him with those protest transparents and we would say that we demand better rights and that we demand our sort of claims to be heard and stuff like that. We did little protests when I was like, I don't know, 6 or 5. And I actually assumed as a child that everybody did this. I assumed that all children communicated with their parents by doing mini protests with mini transparents and stuff like that. I as a child, I assumed that was like the norm of parent-children communication. Well, it worked. Usually. And then we took part when I was really, really small, part in our first presidential campaign. Everybody was super excited by the first free presidential campaign, to the point I remember the posters, which were sort of for a candidate that were we stalked at the house, at the apartment where we lived, and we would be told all the time why their candidate should win. That's Mazowiecki, I think. I did it! Second, that many places in Hungary had received Soros funds, including Orban Viktor himself, by the way. Interesting. So yes, a lot of politics in Lucy's life from a very, very young age. Of course, their candidate did not end up winning in the end. Mazowiecki, I think it was Mazowiecki. I have to check. But he didn't end up winning. As you all probably know, if you know anything about Polish history, the president that ended up winning was Lech Wałęsa. Yeah, we have that in Hungary. It's scary. That is very unfortunate. We have to check in with what's happening right now with the scandal. Here you go. See? We're supposed to be reacting to the debate, and instead you're getting trivia about my life. Even if the intent use is effed up, even if you want to prevent gang criminality, you shouldn't break the standard of the state of law. I mean, it depends, right? It depends of what your incentives are. Sometimes the preventing gang criminality is not the point. Sometimes sort of breaking the standard of the law is the actual point, you know? And the whole gang thing an excuse to do that. Okay. It's okay. We can be high energy all the time. I mean, some of us can, but some of us can't. Some of us can, some of us can't. Let me see. We're supposed to be doing a react to a debate, but instead of getting trivia of the Polish People's Republic and my life. So, there you go. I'm not a good react streamer. I suck at reaction, I guess. Just interject 50 totally unrelated things into this thing. But maybe that's why you like watching me, because I'm original like that. That's really cute. Thank you. I'm original like that. I'm not like all those other boring streamers that just stick to the point and and actually deliver what they promise in the titles of their streams. That's boring. Actually delivering news commentary and actual reactions to stuff. What's the fun in that when you can learn how I did transparent and protested against my parents as a child because monkey sees, monkey does, and I saw them protest against the government or something as a small child. I wish I could be there to see little Lucy protest against their parents. True. Against her parents. Okay, let's continue.
Happens in 47 to 49. When the war for independence happens in 48, nobody's thinking about Palestinians. It's a big fucking like land grab. Israel's trying to grab as much land as they can, past the partition agreement, and then all the other countries around are trying to grab land. And then what happens immediately after? Or go ahead.
That,
what?
I feel like before that, when we look at like the early like tens and whatnot, and like the early day of like the purchasing. First of all, we agree that like not all the land that was purchased had tenant farmers that were kicked out, right?
Sure, but it doesn't matter. I think it was just seeing the Jewish presence growing and growing in a very West.
The whole buying thing. Like, we make it sound like it was that huge presence, but keep in mind, the sort of promoter in the early days of Zionism of the buying, Herzl himself, was not able to basically produce any sort of bigger funding for the buyings, and he himself said that the buyings don't make much sense because buying things for individual families, he said, is like useless, and that if he does not like get any real sort of political concession and real financial backers, then the whole we buy a bit of land, we move a family, we buy a bit of land, we move a family makes absolutely no sense. Like, the buyings were not as big as, like, meaningful as people seem to discuss that they were. Sorry for participating in the pivot, it's okay. My whole streams are one big pivots. That's why people love watching me. Because you don't get what you get anywhere else.
Western way, I think, was very scary to a lot of the Arabs there.
And also, I don't know what that really meant, like a Western way. I mean, most of these
because when Ben Gurion because when the early Zionists moved there, they viewed the Arabs as inferior. They're like, we're not like these losers. We are very much like Western people. We don't want to be part of like the Middle East. We want to be like a Western style creation that exists in this land. I think they very much saw themselves as better.
Sorry.
In a lot of ways, not like it's not like the Jews.
Actually, in the early Zionism, it was like much. It's a bit more complicated. It's a bit more complicated than that. There were two thoughts. There were two schools of thought back then about the Arab population. Okay, one was to pretend that the Arab population did not exist at all. That was one prevalent school of thought. And the other was to say that Jewish people would bring financial and many other cool things, and that the Arab population would be so happy and thankful for all of these boons that Jewish people would bring, that they would all live in peace and everything would be great. So either pretend the native population doesn't exist, or to pretend that everything will just go smoothly because the benefits that Jewish people would bring by moving there would sort of make the Arab people be so happy and so grateful that everybody would just live in harmony and everything would be great. Those were basically two schools of thinking about the whole thing. at least as much as I'm aware of, about the early Zionist movement. I'm not sure if there was actually this element of they are inferior, because that would require for people to acknowledge that people live there. And that oftentimes was not the case. Oh, interesting. Disruptor. I lost again.
These were coming with their fucking bags of fortune. Like these were like refugees running from countries where they're getting fucking pogrom. They're not like
careful.
bro,
There were a lot of
there was
refugees, but they
one-
literally were coming with bags of fortune. That's how they bought all the fucking land. They had tons of like
Yeah,
monetary
but
support
this
from
is
Jews
making-
around the world, right?
No.
that part is true.
In the
with
early-
the purchasing of
in
the
the-
land, but
no.
they like a lot of these people.
No, in the early Zionism, that was absolutely not true. There was not a lot of financial backing of Jewish people around the world. That might have been the case later, but in the early days of Zionism, that was definitely not the case. Which is why Herzl, on his dying bed, considered Zionism to be a total failure and Jewish people to be undeserving of Zionism. So that's definitely not true for the early days of Zionism. That there was this huge financial international Jewish support for it. That's no. Herzl really, really struggled to get any sort of support financially for his project. Because, for example, the German Jewish people considered this sort of financial backing of a Zionist project as declaration that they were not German, and they considered themselves as German citizens. So they saw this almost like a betrayal of their own country to support the Zionist project financially. And that's just one example of the reaction that was there. I just want to know if Destiny figured out where Israel-Palestine is on the map yet. I mean, he did it the same day when he made the mistake, no? He sort of found it a few minutes later or something. Nice. Don't forget the first aid kit and basic trauma first aid training. True. You're right. You're definitely correct. So yeah. Like, we have to sort of actually know, I would say, at least a little bit biography. I haven't read any biographies. I'm reading this nice book called, I got it here. It has a top cover, but I'm not sure if it's in English anywhere. Peace with a View on War. It's the history of Israel, written by a person that admittedly has huge pro-Israel bias, but history-wise, it's very solid. It's very solid on the history side, especially on the side of the early days of Zionism. I have to find some biography of Herzl myself, a nice one to read. It's a huge thing, a huge topic, but a lot of people actually believe that Zionism, when Herzl died, a lot of people believed that Zionism died with him because it was not a very successful movement in his lifetime. Actually, Herzl himself visited Palestine only once, didn't like it very much, and never visited it again, even though he pushed for the Zionist project still. He personally did not like it as a place to be in, which should tell us a lot about his whole attitude. You know? Oh, a new Asmongold video. Is this a maximalism stream, Aladimir? I'm asking because of the gifts that are playing. Oh no, those are like a permanent feature of the stream. I drew those gifts myself. Those are my creations. Those gifts. And they're like sort of like a permanent backdrop of the stream. I am a bit of an animator, you could say.
Especially after like the Holocaust and whatnot, like a huge influx of them. Like these guys are coming in with like fucking striped pajamas and like a duffel bag of like whatever they were able to bring with them in hand. They didn't get to like bring their house properties. It wasn't like they saw these like British coming by the boats with like Navy boats like coming to invade. I feel like that's the narrative that's like spun with like the Jewish like colonizers all running there with their billions of dollars to and their.
I think it was like a combination of things, right? Yeah, I mean, like not everybody went there fully loaded, and they put in a lot of work. But like, I mean, given the Holocaust that happened, and given the fact that it was them against the world, the Jews. I mean, ignoring financial support, they also had a really big incentive to fight. I think during the first two wars, I think the Jewish state was mobilizing 17% of their population to fight in the fucking military. They were able to conscript so many fucking people. And even though the Arabs had more people, they didn't have the formal military training. They didn't have the statesmanship or the political prowess. And they didn't have the unity that the Jewish people had. Jewish people had like unity around the world with other Jewish people. The Arab states were all side-eyeing each other, you know, like with fucking
And
contempt.
I promise you, the fear of the Jewish people was the fear that they had against the population was a lot worse than the other way around in terms of like seeing Haj Amin al-Husseini when he like the riots that he incited and like meeting with Hitler. Like there was a lot more fear of like at any moment there would be like a complete extermination. And even in like the beginning of the 48 war, like the quotes even were I don't see how people could ever say that like anything but like a minimum ethnic cleansing was the goal of the 48 war, especially with like where's the fucking quote?
I think you'd have to be pretty nice. I think if the Arab states would have won the 48 war, ethnic cleansing would have been the minimum for sure, and arguably a lot
quote.
more. Yeah.
Were a war to establish a Jewish state take place, it would lead to.
He could just as well have chosen Patagonia, Argentina as the home country for the Jewish people, right? It was sort of. There were a few places. I'm pretty sure even Poland was considered at one point. Parts of Poland.
A war of extermination and momentous massacre like the Mongolian massacre and crusades.
Yeah. Who was this quote from?
I know this quote.
This is from the Secretary General of the Arab League.
From the Arab League, that was it. Okay, yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, of course, yeah.
And then with like, I guess I understand your original like European Jews. I mean, that's true for 48, but you would agree that first of all, you know that nowadays that
I understand what the composition is now, but I'm saying initially they felt like a foreign people.
And even after 48, like with the mass exodus of like.
Yeah, but it wouldn't matter at that point. They're being absorbed into what the Arabs saw as like a European state, a Western-style European state.
Okay. Where was it?
Aye.
Yeah.
I am the jigger now. True.
Oh, and then also, do you think that like the Jewish people the Zionists were winning the war from the beginning in 48, or even 47?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Not exactly.
I think there was a turning point with the Haganah. I don't remember what it was. I think it was around 47 was when, for a while, when did the Mufti guy die? Or al-Husseini, I should say.
I think he lasted the entire 48 war.
He was participating, right? I think there were times where like villages were being cut off, I think, from supplies because of surrounding like Palestinian fighters and stuff. But I think once the Yishuv like really started to mobilize their forces and begin to fight, I think it was a pretty clean sweep from 47 onwards. It was like a
no.
You don't think so?
I don't think so at all. Especially from the beginning of the war, at least.
There was a big, actually, turning point in the war where I have to read up on about it more. When basically a reinforcement of planes sort of saved Israel from losing outright. It was it was described as one pivotal moment that decided the fate of the entire war.
Jewish,
Hello.
like the Jewish army was completely fucking outclassed. Not outclassed. I'm sorry, outmanned and completely
Wait,
outclassed.
from the beginning of the
Western
war,
as well.
the 47 to 49 Civil War or the 48 War of Independence?
I think even the War of Independence did not start off well at all. I think they were like almost 2-1 outnumbered.
Outnumbered, one doesn't matter because there wasn't a cohesive
And
Arab
outweaponed.
front. What?
I think outgunned because
I'm
when it
pretty sure that the consensus is that the newly formed country of Israel formed sort of went against professional armies, no? And Israel did not have like a super professional army to speak of back then.
exactly was the smuggling of the Czechoslovakian army? Because I don't
I
even
think that was around
47.
48.
Yeah.
I think that was before the
That's
48
not-
war.
I think
But also,
that
it just
was-
doesn't matter. Like, not to be mean, but like Arabs just seem like they suck at conducting war. At that point, they did. The states weren't coordinating with each other. They didn't have a cohesive plan. There wasn't a cohesive plot. I'm sorry,
I mean,
a cohesive front or
Wait,
plot.
Did you hear about like the siege of Jerusalem? Like that was like the
Yes.
stuff before like the really fucked up Deir Yassin massacre and whatnot.
No, was this from the West Bank? Was from the east of Jerusalem? Or?
This is like this is like even West Jerusalem, but like basically this
hear
like the
about-
Zionist forces were being completely cut off of Jerusalem, which was a Jewish stronghold at the time, but
I'm pretty
like
sure that's where the
uh,
plane reinforcements come in, right?
in like terms of population, but was like completely cut off by armies, and any like convoy that was passing was Jesus. It would be so nice if I had a better.
I'm sure there were like problems that they faced, but I don't think Israel was ever going to lose that war. I'm sympathetic to the feelings that they were on edge the entire time. I think that was totally sympathetic.
I
but
think you
because of the
should do-
disarray of the Arab states, there was no shot, I think, that Israel was ever getting conquered early on.
I'm not
They were able to
that-
mobilize a
I think-
huge percentage of their population. They were fighting for their fucking survival. The other Arab states all hated each other. Like,
Yeah, they
Yeah,
were.
I mean, in terms of like the problems of the Arab countries, I completely agree with like they're not cooperating correctly, but
They're
at the
still
time, at least in
professional
terms of,
armies,
you could say
as
that
opposed
through the
to-
determination, like the Jewish people never fucking surrendered. They would have fought to their last blood and blah blah blah, like, and that they would have won. But without like some of the arms smuggling, which
Yep.
I could
I-
just be wrong on the date, but without some of that,
That would have been.
and I think
yeah.
there was shit. I should have done more research before going fully into this, but like I think the ceasefire as well. It was at a bad point,
In
and
fact, there was this apparently really silly moment of the Israel forces taking a display artillery gun to use it in the war, and it was super loud and it scared both sides when it was used.
that is when some of the arms were smuggled in.
when you say it was at a bad point, what do you mean by that?
Like there was a couple of battles that I think
Sort
the
of,
Jordanian
bro.
forces were fucking up the Zionist forces pretty bad.
I'm not aware of that. I'd have to go and see. My understanding is that when all those ceasefires were being called, Israeli forces were still aggressively pushing as much past the 47 partition borders as they could. That there was a lot of like, I think there were at least 2 big ceasefire calls where Israeli forces were still trying to take as many villages as they could. That whole Plan Dalet stuff, like they wanted to push as far as they could in that military conflict.
Possible. More about the current stuff. What is your prescription for the end of the war?
I think Hamas can't be negotiated with. I think that's fair. But the Palestinians need a leader. They need a popular politician that the Israelis can negotiate with. and Israel needs to facilitate that. There was that one guy in prison, I think. I don't remember his name, but he's like the second most popular politician, or arguably maybe the first most popular politician. Maybe that guy needs to.
Master guy.
Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce his name. Yeah, maybe that guy needs to be released, and then he can be the leader of the Palestinians, and they can negotiate with him. But the Palestinians, number one, need a leader, and two, Israel needs to facilitate that, because Israel, especially after this last reprisal for the October 7th attacks, Israel is going to quickly run out of international support, like maintaining the occupation past this point. It's just too much. It's too much at this point, I think. Yeah.
So one of the things that I feel like would be the like best case scenario here. Obviously Bibi's a little too unhinged to realistically be a good leader for peace or anything like that. Gantz is the second guy. He is way up in the polls. An election gets called today, he wins. But besides that, through the end of the war, when Hamas is destroyed, God willing, I think that it's going to start off with an Israeli occupation to finish off like the last like little stragglers left from Hamas, and then what needs to happen, and I don't know how it can happen, is I feel like an Arabic occupation of Gaza, and some sort of like a much bigger and more deep role of like the UAE and Saudi in like shaping a like pathway towards a state while being in full control of the state at the moment to transition into like some chill, create some sense of like actual civilized society, like have programs and whatnot. And then another thing is
what that means.
How do you feel about like the UN? Do you feel that they are actually against Israel? They are.
I feel like there's institutional bias against Israel, which I think is a problem, but I don't know how much that matters.
Would you contribute that just like to the Arab bloc, I guess?
Because they're just the Arab bloc always votes uniformly against them.
Yeah, and then is there any strong feelings you have? There are recent changes you had that's been like towards the Palestinian side. I want to see if
what do you mean?
Contend with any of those, like any change, because you said that this book, or that through not Avi Shlaim, who's the guy Shlomo Ben-Ami, through reading his book, you've had some insights. What have been like some big insight changes?
I think just the insights have been how much Israel has enjoyed the conflict. None of my thoughts have changed on the Palestinians. They have also pushed for conflict. Their leadership has just been historically fucking horrible. And it's just their refusal to try to settle, like Arafat, I think has committed sins against like the Palestinian people. Like I think he's a deplorable leader, and he fucked a lot of them over really hardcore.
What do you mean by some of the enjoyments by the Israeli side?
As in, Israel has always capitalized, well, prior to 73 at least, Israel capitalizes on conflict and uses it to expand our borders. And settlements and everything. I think after the loss, I think the beginning of the...
To be fair, we do need to remember, once again, that the UN sort of borders were not really any borders. They were recommendations of borders that would need to be still sort of, just to keep in mind.
Yom Kippur War, and then the humiliation, I think, in Lebanon.
Yom Kippur.
I think they started to realize that they needed to do diplomacy a bit more. What?
Oh, my biggest thing. Oh, yeah, shit. I forgot about my biggest thing that I was very curious of why you felt this way. Why do you feel like Israel doesn't have a threat worth holding on to the what is it called, the not Iron Curtain.
Because for the most part, like all their threats, their threats are threats of politics now. That's the next battlefield they need to focus on. They can't use the military to solve their problems anymore with the Palestinians. The time for that is past. Egypt is not going to war. Jordan is friendly. The Gulf states are largely friendly. Assad's regime lies in ruins. There's no more Saddam Hussein, and then you've got Iran. Like,
I mean, yes, but like at the same time, it's like, okay, maybe I can give that there's no existential threat, but when has the level ever been we need to like act tough so we don't have an existential threat? I feel like we were lucky that like Hezbollah didn't act, and I think that was through good movement from the Biden administration. And I feel like if not, there would have been a war imminent, because without pressure from the United States with like the carriers and shit, I think Hezbollah would have been very excited to catch Israel with his pants down at the moment. And I feel like stuff like that, where it's like, sure, it's not an existential threat, but we're talking like mass terrorism level threats, or like mass casualties that I don't think that usual countries are expected to like just deal with it kind of things. I feel like that still, you could say that you shouldn't have the same level of protection of the Iron Wall, but I feel like the Iron Wall is still something that applies to modern.
No, I disagree. I think it's weakening Israel's position internationally. I think the time for solving conflict through military is past. It's just they have to be over it now, I think.
But what do you mean by like what should they have not solved by the military?
They're not going to solve the Palestinian problem via military. They're not going to solve Hezbollah even with military. I think Israel's might there was destroyed in '91. I think after the first Gulf War, when they basically had to take a back seat with their military deterrence, when Saddam Hussein was literally shooting Scud missiles into the country, and the U.S. was like, "Sorry, you guys need to sit this one out. Like, you're done with the military deterrence shit. It's just not working. It doesn't do anything. You can't have military deterrence against your civilian population. It's not working. It didn't work on October 7th, right?
Yeah, but
even with Iran and having nukes, people are bringing that up, that the solution to nuclear problems are not military. It's going to be political. It has to be political maneuvering, which Israel used to be pretty good at. They have to do that again.
Yeah.
Theory.
I don't know where you see the negotiate with Iran. Why don't we just like negotiate with Russia? Why do you feel that everything lies on negotiations with Iran, as if like
I think Russia should be negotiated with as well. Yeah, I think Russia, there have been times where Russia was almost brought into the fold of the West.
But it's something with like tyrannical leaders is like they might come close to falling in, but they just so happen to never actually come close. Like I don't think we've ever done a good deal with like North Korea. I don't think we ever did a serious deal with even Iran. I don't know like that many specifics, but
that comes
I feel like most of the stuff we have done with Iran hasn't really gotten us much progress. In the same way with
you have to know what the incentives are and what they want when you go into negotiation. No, that is if you think they want something and you offer that something, and it totally misses with the reality of what they actually want, then of course the negotiation will go nowhere. Because they want something else, which we're missing.
Russia, I understand there's room for diplomacy in order to make things chill, but the idea of just be friends with them. There has to be some level of high deterrence as well. I don't think that just make a peace treaty with the worst enemy that is like axiomatically their axiomatic resolve is to like destroy your state. Like that's what the Ayatollah fucking ran with as like.
Yeah, but like, isn't the Ayatollah like historically like unpopular right now? Aren't they enjoying some of the least?
How much does that matter though?
It does matter. Like I think that your dictatorship is only survives until the next revolt.
I mean, in some ways, yes, that's true. But we
could even extend that to the U.S. What exactly is the U.S. gaining from Republican Party blocking the aid to Ukraine over and over and over again when it comes to its international relations boons? Nothing. The answer is nothing. It just feels like destroying the reputation of the U.S. on the international stage. So sometimes the incentives of the individual actors are not exactly in line with what logically would make the most sense for example, good of the country or for the good of international relations, as are traditionally viewed.
Say the same thing about like Egypt and Jordan. Egypt and Jordan, like 95% of them hate Jews.
But they were bought off by the United States aid. They wanted to do their financial economic development, and
by the dictators.
What?
Not by their dictatorships. If it was like actual democracies where people had votes, they would vote to go to war with Israel. Like, it's pretty. I don't know where the
That's
room
not how
is
democracy
to
works. Right?
have
Yeah, actually, that's kind of true, I guess.
Iran
Yeah.
come to the table.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. But I mean, what is it going to be? Are we just going to go to war and blow them all up, or?
It's not going to be that, but you're just going to like slowly. I think you're going to have to do high deterrence on like the worst like excesses of like terrorist organizations. Well, you have to build towards like a peaceful resolution with the Palestinian people. Like I'm talking about after the war, you have to do like the same way with like after World War II with Germany. I believe that people fucking give me so much shit for this, but I believe in some sense like Hamas is similar to like Nazi Germany in terms of like their
Well, that's not a very good example, is it? Considering that right after World War II, Germany was just invested in and rebuilt. Like, after World War II, Germany was almost right away prompted to be part of the new Cold War. It wasn't punished with some deterrence. It was prompted and rebuilt and largely invested into. Some of the people even rehired into the new military structures. So I'm not sure if I'm not even sure if in like let's assume World War II in Germany had been not a terrorist group, it was a state. Yeah, but even if Germany is not the best example for promoting deterrence, considering that Germany was basically just invested into, prompt up and made into like a new country, at least like the Western Germany, into a country that was supposed to be fighting in the new Cold War. It wasn't sort of brought into heel with like deterrence. It was brought into default through investment, okay? And through building it up. You don't view combat insurgency movements the same as states, correct? You don't. But I still think my point stands that Germany, even if Hamas was a full-blown state, Germany is not a good example of what he's trying to sort of advocate for. You know? Like many people that were in the Nazi structures of military were hired into the new structures. Again, as part of the new fight against the USSR.
Strict adherence to the ideology of like Jews are the root of all problems and the only solution is the destruction of Jews or Israel or etc. Like
wait,
sure,
wait, who feels that way?
For Hamas. No, I'm saying the community. The GGG has been shitting on the and the Lonerbox community for making comparisons of Hamas and Nazis. They're like, well, they don't have the same power, so you don't have to destroy them.
I'm just saying at some point you have to, like, here's the issue right now, okay? The issue that you have right now is what's going to happen after the war. Is Israel going to like take solid steps towards peace, or is Israel going to consolidate, its power and continue to expand aggressively settlements through the West Bank now with the new moral mandate they've been handed by the big terrorist attack?
Oh, if that's what you mean by like not doing the iron wall, then sure, yeah. Like
because I feel like what's going to come after this war is hopefully they don't move into the Gaza Strip with more settlements. That would be a huge step back. I can understand some level of occupation for a little bit, but like I feel like the West Bank annexation and everything is probably going to continue moving forward. More settlements are going to happen in the West, which continues to fuck everything up. Like,
yeah, I believe that there is a pathway to two states. I think it just has
there's
to
a path
be
towards
through
peace, but
I think it has to be through an Arabic occupation after Israel, or else.
But why is Netanyahu going to be the guy to agree to that? Who sees himself as leading?
No way.
Yeah. So as long as Netanyahu is there, it's
Jordan
fucked.
took over the West Bank.
Luckily, he's down in the polls, right? I mean,
Go for it. Yeah, one of the beautiful things about Israel is like the idea
Egypt already had
that
Gaza under it.
someone can pull the coalition and cause like an
while.
election to happen that day. And if not,
We
unfortunately, the
already
election's
had
not
that
until
sort of
2026, which is
situation.
a yikes
And
amount
it
of time
didn't
away.
lead to
But
anything.
eventually, hopefully, hopefully the war doesn't look too beautiful for Netanyahu, where it's like a complete, that's my only like bad vibe is that if the
Bad
war goes too
vibes.
absolutely perfectly, that Netanyahu will look like the hero that
No,
finally
no way.
destroyed Hamas instead of
No way,
I mean,
no way.
this guy's Israeli, so I'll take his word for
Look-
the general populist
Look,
feeling.
even if Hamas is tomorrow is like, we surrender, Bibi, you were right, Zionism is based and all. Like, no, Bibi is, I think largely done. He, I mean, if you look at the polls, if you look at, like, he already had massive opposition, and no matter how he wins this war, October 7 was, I'm being very charitable, at least a massive letdown. No way, I think. You could say the right wing will get stronger because, look, a lot of people are like, well, the left wing, they're delusional. They thought peace was possible. Then October 7th happened. You have to be the right wing, just not Bibi. That might be something we'll see.
We'll
But yeah,
see.
I have just a couple of recommendations before I go, and but yeah.
Yeah, go for it. Quick, hurry up, because I got a ton of shit to do.
No, yeah, of course. So my favorite historian is
I
Lee Moore.
think the October 7th, by the way, and all the war that came after sort of made people suddenly really forget. I don't know how, I don't know why, that Israel was in the middle of undermining the courts and basically facilitating a non-democratic regime. Did we all forget about that? Like that really worries me that everybody just forgot about it all of a sudden. That there was a huge protest in Israel just before October 7th. Like, it's really interesting that people seem to. In fact, when the protests were in their highest thing and the court thing was being decided, I remember distinctly thinking that something that because of the destabilization in Israel, something like October 7th might happen. And unfortunately, I was correct. I was correct. If you had a proper transition to democracy in state like Syria, Lebanon, Egypt, Iraq, etc., they would probably be peaceful in the end because it would be good for the well-being of the people. I hear it mentioned. I don't hear it mentioned enough. Listen, I don't hear it mentioned
Morris,
enough.
I mean, if anything, you should read some of his stuff. I know you talked to him. You should talk to him again. And I think he's your partner in the debate. But I mean, look, Avi seems like he knows a lot of stuff too, so he might be able to recommend more stuff better than me. But I mean, in terms of navigating the like buzzword discussion, Human Rights Watch has a report accusing Israel of the crime of apartheid. There's this group NGO Monitor. They had like a document in response, kind of debunking a lot of stuff in the Human Rights Watch document. I was skeptical when I read it, but it was just like so many things they got wrong. Is just like it amazes me. So I don't know. A lot of the talking points are just kind of addressed there. And I mean, there are some books that are from a more Zionist point of view than me that might be worthwhile to read.
Oh, I see. I love it when people basically say the word buzzword and it means a topic that I don't like. Apartheid is a buzzword. Oh yeah, and considering the Africa thing, of course, probably genocide is also a buzzword, isn't it? Is genocide a buzzword? Oh, I bet. So many buzzwords. Awful, awful buzzwords. Awful buzzwords. Oh man.
But yeah, I don't know. I can send you an email if it's urgent. But I mean, that's about it. I'm just trying to Zion pill you again. No, I'm joking.
Sure. Okay.
He's not joking.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna go to sleep now. Bye bye. Have fun.
Bye. Be careful.
It was nice talking to you, my friend. May your Zionist journey not be ended here.
Oh
I
my.
love you.
Love
Be
you,
careful.
bye.
Wonderful.
No, I've been watching your debates and hello.
Hi.
Yeah, I don't know why my computer's been acting wonky lately.
None of us know either.
Well, can you hear me?
Now I can. Sorry.
Well, what's up? Yeah, sorry, you want to start again? You want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, I'm Halsey English. We talked before about Trump and a couple other things, and I've been listening to your kind of evolution on the whole Israel thing. I didn't know you were debating Finkelstein. That should be an interesting one. But I didn't expect to see such a calm debate with Lamont Hill today. But I mean, he was being dishonest about a lot of things and just making it seem like, well, I just want a fair solution that's going to make everybody happy, and then everyone can kind of hold hands.
I want that as well.
I mean, the idea that he came up with, that there should be a one-state solution in which Islamic law can't be enforced on anybody, and everybody has freedom of this. I mean, that's a guarantee for war. There's absolutely no ifs, ands, or buts about it. That if that even, I mean, who would believe that could even be enforced? Who's going to tell them no? You know, I mean, they tried that in Lebanon where they had, sectarian modes of government and all of that. And look at how well that's turned out.
Sure. I wouldn't say that a one-state solution is impossible. It is right now it's inconceivable. But I think that things can change pretty dramatically in ways that people wouldn't expect, and it can cause people's minds and hearts to change. But I mean, I do agree right now that seems pretty inconceivable. I do agree with that.
But how could it even change over time?
I mean, we went from Nasser, one of the trying to be the pan-Arab leader of the fucking world, committing to so much.
I mean, we went from Germany being the big enemy of Europe to Germany being one of the biggest proponents of democracy. That's changed. That changed, and the World War II was not that long ago, so that's actually changed. This is idiotic. Palestinian people are not coded with religious genes. True. Religious gene, the selfish gene, even. Also, sorry to say, but religious preference is a massive issue in Israel right now. True. I didn't even catch the religious part. I just agree that things can really drastically change in a relatively short amount of time when it comes to sentiments. Like the Polish-German sentiment has changed, I would say, pretty radically. In fact, it changed pretty radically from the government that just lost power to the government that's in power right now. So I don't know. I definitely agree that things like people's sentiments towards other people's can change pretty drastically, pretty quickly. Depending on how things pan out. That there is not this forever hatred that will never cease no matter what, Since people are sort of, all generations go, new generations are born, new sentiments are sort of born. Even if the new generations are sort of learned on what came before, it is possible to facilitate a new sort of relationship based on the future generations. Like it has been said, that issue is that the Islamic law won't allow peace. I mean, law can be changed. Like if law cannot allow something, the law can be changed. That's, law is something that can be changed. I remember visiting my Polish grandpa, and a terrible Polish magazine cover portrayed Merkel as being literally Hitler standing in a war room. That was wild. I bet it was some Law and Justice sort of own thing. I mean, a lot of it is racism, quite frankly, THJ. A lot of it is sort of, even though technically speaking, anybody can be Muslim, okay? Usually when people think Muslim, they think non-white. Like that's a big that is a big thing, connotation, even though actually anyone can be, anyone can be a Muslim because it's a religion. Anybody can just convert to Islam. So Islam is not inherently tied to any race, But Islam is in fact very, very often racialized and very often tied to a very specific group of people. That is undeniable, that Islam just gets racialized outright. Also, almost, since we're talking about religious genes, since the racialization happens, it sort of becomes like the religion becomes like a biological trait of a given race of people. Which leads to statements like their religious law will not allow them to do this because that's like their racial trait in an RPG. The racial trait in their race sort of tree will not allow them to do peace on this. Of course, we then tend to forget that even in the Middle East itself, there is a huge diversity when it comes to group of people who are Muslim. It's not all just Arab people in the Middle East either. So those groups sort of get flattened out, and sort of the diversity of groups sort of also gets just totally flattened and erased, basically. Muslim at the moment of creation. We're fighting Thanos.
Violence and aggression towards Israel, to Sadat, the leader immediately after, making a speech in front of the Israeli Knesset. That was huge. It was monumental. It was unbelievable. He was expelled for 10 years. Egypt was after they signed that peace. That was something that nobody ever expected to happen. That was like an inconceivable thing. It was so inconceivable that when Sadat first offered peace to Golda Meir before the Yom Kippur War, she said no because she didn't even believe it. So I think it's possible. You just need like the right leader at the right time with the right wave of popular support. But again, I agree with you right now. That's inconceivable. I just don't want to say it's impossible.
It's easy to say that anything is possible in the realm of the world. I mean, yes, have weirder things happened? Absolutely. When Ariel Sharon gave away Gaza in 2005, most people would have told you that was absolutely impossible. And people love to say that Netanyahu's been in power forever and it's been all him. It hasn't. There have been plenty of different prime ministers. Even in his own party, he wasn't the leader of his own party for years. You know, it wasn't until Ariel Sharon left the party to go do the disengagement that Netanyahu even became leader of Likud again. So it's not that it's impossible. I would say that it's not desirable. I mean, I'm a dual citizen of Israel and America, but I wouldn't want to see it. I wouldn't want to see a secular state that recognized the aspirations of anybody except for the people who have the state now.
Sure.
And if you look at just what's going on,
Oh, that's great. Pretty horrible, actually. A really telling statement just now we've heard. I'm a dual citizen of... Wow, there are a few things to unpack here. One, I'm a dual citizen of Israel and the US, which means that this person, quite frankly, if anything goes wrong, has a second country to fall back on pretty easily, the US, right? If anything goes wrong, I'm still a US citizen. And second of all, I'm pretty sure most Palestinians are not dual citizens of Gaza and the US, so they just cannot go to their second home of the US at any time when convenient. That's one. And this whole thing about peace and a one-state solution is not desirable because I just want the group that's dominant right now to keep being dominant. I don't think I like this whole argument. I don't know. I don't think I like this. I don't think I like where this is going. Just denying a people any right to self-determination because the group that's better now gets theirs. I don't know.
On the Temple Mount. I mean, they haven't been able to agree on who's even allowed up there to pray, even though it's the most holy site in Judaism, second supposedly most holy site in Islam. They argue the same over the tomb of the patriarchs in Hebron, and Joseph's tomb, which is in Shechem, or they call Nablus. That they burned that down so many times that I'm surprised it's even still standing.
What about it though?
It's that the idea that people can agree on things as insane as a land that's religiously significant to everyone who lives there.
I don't think it has to be. I don't believe that. I think that's weird Jewish new.
No, I'm saying no one's ever been able to do it. I'm not saying that it's not one day possible under some weird kind of.
I don't think it's really functioning well right now, right? I don't think we're in a very tenable situation right now. No.
I mean, it's functioning right now.
It's clearly not functioning right now. You've got people living under essentially a military-style government indefinitely. How is that functioning?
Oh, you mean just in the West Bank and Gaza in general?
Yeah. Wait, that's where Hebron is, right? Yeah.
Hebron is there, but it's not. Hebron is a split city. There's half of it is under Palestinian control, half of it is under Israeli control.
Yeah, but all in the West Bank, right? And Al right? The Temple Mount is in East Jerusalem, right? All of this is like under occupation. It's not. This is not a tenable. It's not a. This can't last forever, right?
Well, East Jerusalem is not under occupation. It's never been under occupation. You were talking about 242 before, and there was a reason why they tried so hard and accomplished saying territories seized in the war instead of all of the territories, because no one under any circumstances considered that Israel was going to give up the old city of Jerusalem and the Western Wall. And the idea that everyone kind of understood that it was all the territories is just laughable, because Israel was never going to give that up under any circumstances for any kind of deal.
Well, I mean, at the time, that's what they felt like. But I think future negotiations paved the way for a different interpretation of 242, where I think Israel was a little bit warmer to negotiating some land for peace with different people. But I mean, like, that's not as relevant. What I guess for today, I mean, how do we ever reach a negotiated two-state solution with so many fucking settlements?
I don't think there is the ability to do a two-state solution, and I actually don't even think it has much to do with the parties involved.
Possible, then.
I don't think that two states is viable.
So nothing is viable.
Every sense of the word.
So what is
It's not viable because there's not enough water, there's not enough land, there's not enough resources. If, let's say, tomorrow, kumbaya, everybody gets happy and says we're going to form a two-state solution. The Palestinians get the West Bank and Gaza with East Jerusalem as their capital, and the Israelis get what the other side of the 67 lines. There's not enough space in the West Bank and Gaza to handle who's there now for
what do you mean? They
another
literally
10 years.
Are there now? No?
No, but I'm saying for another 10 years, 15 years, there's not enough space with natural growth to handle all of the people that are there now. That's why people emigrate, and that's why people leave, and that's why people have to import water from Israel proper, from up in Tiberia. The Jordan River is
Israel would probably share. They would probably divert waters from like the Jordan River.
I mean,
well, the Jordan River.
Speaking, you could create some form of like a federalized situation in which there would be two states, but within a bigger organism. They would have their own borders, their own governments, but would cooperate within a more bigger structure that would facilitate sharing of resources and etc. No, that is it possible. So like a hybrid between a one-state solution and a two-state solution sort of thing, a commonwealth, if you will.
Basically dry. It all comes from Lake Tiberias, which is
Lake
in
Tiberias,
Israel.
Sure. I mean, I imagine there would be a resource sharing agreement or something, right?
But how could there be? I mean, look at what's happened just in Gaza. There was a resource sharing agreement where Israel would provide power and water and all of that under the understanding that when they left, they wouldn't be doing that anymore for a very long period of time, and they've been doing it now since 2005.
Yeah, I agree. The situation is fucked, but I'm saying that like
the situation is not tenable right now. So Hamas
But
is
I'm saying,
being
but
eliminated
in the
and-
advent
yeah.
of a two-state solution, let's say the millions of Palestinians that live in Lebanon and Syria and the states and Egypt and everywhere else say, okay, we're going back to the Palestinian state. There's not enough resources there to deal with it.
Sure. I mean, that would be up to them to absorb those immigrants. But sure, let's say the two-state solution is untenable because of right of return to the second state. What then is the solution?
If you ask me, there could be a two-state solution, but it would require absolute regional cooperation from Egypt and Jordan.
Yeah.
In that the Gaza Strip would not be the Gaza Strip as part of the Palestinian state. There would be a decent part of Sinai for them, and maybe they can incorporate the Gaza Strip into that. I don't think Israel cares one way or the other about retaining the Gaza Strip as Israeli territory. But what they could do is they could expand the land. I mean, we talk all the time about
The
how
West
there
Bank is
was the
already
partition plan.
riddled with settlements, though. Are they just going to expand into the Negev desert?
First
How
of
are
all,
they
it
gonna-
actually
riot.
isn't. The riddling of the settlements, when they talk about a deal, now again, we're talking hypotheticals because I'm against the deal, period. But let's say talk hypotheticals. When they talked about the offers that Israel made, usually it was between 80 and 90% of the West Bank would go to the Palestinian Arabs because there's not really any settlements there. The vast majority of the settlements are right outside Jerusalem.
The majority
And
of the
would be
settlements, well, they're along the Green Line, not right outside Jerusalem. But no, as of today, there are lots of settlements that extend up to the Jordanian border, that extend up near and around Nablus, that extend like south of Bethlehem and around Hebron. Like the one around Hebron is huge. Like there's
Bethlehem is around Jerusalem, and Hebron is 5 minutes from Jerusalem. So
well,
it's,
everything.
we're
I mean,
not.
this is a small area. Everything is is an hour drive from wherever. But I'm saying there are settlements everywhere. Like if you wanted to make a contiguous state of the West Bank, at this point, it's going to look like Swiss cheese.
No, I'm talking about that all the offers that have been made so far incorporated those settlements into Israel and had a very contiguous state for the Palestinians that included land swaps in both the Negev and up north into the Arab Triangle. So if the will was there and there was actually a desire to do it, there is a way to do it.
Well,
that you could
I
make
agree that
a contiguous state. I'm
think
not
that-
saying a viable state. I'm saying a contiguous one.
there were opportunities in 2000 that I think were missed. I agree with that. But now we're in 2024, and now the populations have continued to grow throughout all the settlements. What is the solution now?
What is the solution?
Yes.
I mean, it depends. It depends on what you see as being a good solution.
What is a politically
Well, there are a few reasons for that. Gaza has historically been a trade hub, so it depends on being open a lot, right? It depends. It's been sort of designed to have semi-open borders with Egypt to begin with. I'm pretty sure that they share a city that is cut in half, and Egypt has part of the city and Gaza had part of the city. So Gaza was by design sort of existed as this sort of facilitator of trade between different regions, and that is how it thrived. The big thing that creates the Gaza situation is that it's isolated. It just cannot function because it's antithetical to what it's supposed to be. And of course, in my opinion, as I said, a two-state solution could sort of exist within a bigger entity, you know? Just like the European Union, where you have states that are separate and yet they're united within the Union. So you would have to facilitate, you would also need to facilitate real cooperation. Right, yeah. Oh yeah, you would, of course. You would need to change Israel as Israel could not be the way it is now, no. You would have to recreate the both states from scratch. You would not need to just create a state for Palestine. You would need to recreate Israel as a state basically from scratch. you would have to create the two states in tandem. The two-state solution would be creating these two states, sort of, if that makes sense. The two states would need to be sort of recreated in tandem for that to work. To sort of be built from the ground up to sort of work together. That's the only way that it could possibly work. Yeah. Yeah. Karasu is correct.
Stable, long-term solution for security, peace, and economic prosperity for all the peoples involved in this region. What does that say?
In all honesty, the way it's been solved for 1,000 years, let them fight it out, and when one side wins and one side loses, that's it.
That's it?
That's stupid.
That a solution becomes imposed on the losing side, and that's the way it is. That's the way it ends.
If tomorrow, if Egypt, Jordan, Syria, Iraq, Lebanon, and then Iran decide, fuck it, we actually are going to team up, go to war with Israel, and they win that war, and they want to expel all the Israeli citizens from the newly created country, you'd be okay with that?
I would accept that if that's what happens and we lost, that's exactly what they would do.
I'm asking
whether
what
I
we think
wanted
ought
it
to
or not.
happen.
That's what they would do.
Well, but I'm asking what we want. Is that what we want? Do we want Israel to just conquer all of the Gaza Strip and the West Bank and expel all those people?
All of the West Bank and Gaza Strip? No.
Just
That's
all the parts with the
stupid.
settlement, so they'd be left with what, 30-40%
So
of the...
basically, we could extend this to other conflicts. Oh yeah, if Russia just wins, then that's fine. That's fine because might makes right. That's basically what he's saying. Might makes right, so it's all good. Might makes right. Wonderful. Wonderful. Jesus, where's the game?
The territory of the West Bank that they would all be corralled into?
No, I mean you've been talking on all of your debates about mandatory Palestine and how when they accepted the partition plan that it was, 50% Jewish and 50% Arab or 55-45. But mandatory Palestine, in which Jordan was created in 1946, so it's not like it was created long before. All of Jordan was part of mandatory Palestine. And no one had a slight complaint about them creating a whole new country with a whole new leadership that were imported from Saudi Arabia in order to make mandatory Palestine Jordan. And when Mark Lamont Hill was talking about, Jordan was holding it in trust so that they could make a Palestinian state one day, that is absolute bullshit. There was never a talk of Palestinian state. In fact, when the PLO was formed in 1964, which was almost 20 years later, they said very specifically in their charter that they had no interest in a Palestinian state. They had an interest in joining Greater Syria and being part of the Greater Arab world.
All of this might be true. We can dive through all the history of why they did or didn't do things in the past, particularly things in the past. I'm just saying that right now, we're in 2024. I don't think that we can say that the answer that we ought to pursue is just mass expulsion of Palestinians.
True.
I don't
Well,
think
I'm
that's
saying, why can't there be a
politically
negotiated agreement that involves Egypt and Jordan as well?
which would involve a mass expulsion of Palestinians?
No, why can't it be a contiguous state that includes part of their land too?
I don't know if any of them want to do that. So you're saying that you would make
But Israel doesn't want to either. So if Israel doesn't want to, why is their desire not to want to do it?
I guess credit where credit's due. He now knows more and he changed his stance. That's better than many people do. It's funny because Destiny was basically saying the same thing before he knew anything. I mean, I guess he knows something now. So I guess that's good. You learn, you adapt, I guess.
Any greater or worse than Egypt's or Jordan's?
Because Israel is the one that's currently occupying the territory.
Well, they're not occupying Area C. Area C.
It's basically, they might as well be. It's under their military control. They control all the airspace, and they can basically dictate changing of areas in the future, right? It's not like there's a country in Area C.
There isn't a country there, but there isn't a country. I mean, there's a country of Israel in those areas, and there's a country of Jordan on one border, and there's a country of Egypt on another border. And the areas that are surrounding the Palestinian state are basically unoccupied to begin with. So why, as I said, why is it that a true viable state can't be formed with them as part of it?
With Jordan?
Yeah, with a piece of Jordan and a piece of the Sinai.
Because
as
I don't
well.
think Jordan or Egypt are interested in that. These are now Israel's occupied territories. It's up to Israel to figure out how to administer them. I don't think you can force another country to say like, hey, can you just take on all these people? Egypt probably couldn't sustain it. Neither country is particularly fond of the Palestinians. I don't think either of them would.
Okay, but let's say they had the money and there'll be a border. I'm not saying they should incorporate them as part of Jordan and part of Egypt. I'm saying form a Palestinian state, but give them some land from Jordan and from Egypt and the Sinai to make an actual viable state for them.
Oh, you want Egypt? Wait, why the fuck would they give up land because of Israel's problem? Why would they do that?
Why is it Israel's problem?
No. Why would Jordan and Egypt give up land to help Israel with one of their problems?
Because supposedly they care about the Palestinians and the Palestinians having a home.
Caring about that's the equivalent of a conservative saying if you care about homeless people so much, you should just let them live with you.
Which people say all the time.
Yeah, and
but
it's rightfully castigated. It's stupid. That's not an argument.
No, an argument could be made that Jordan occupied the West Bank for almost 20 years.
I mean,
Egypt occupied Gaza for the same amount of time. After they lost those areas in 1967, they didn't relinquish control of them for years later. I think in Jordan it was 94. And I think in Egypt it was in the late 70s.
I understand what you're saying. I don't think the history is very relevant at this point. The reality is right now, there is a country called Israel that is occupying the West Bank and the Gaza Strip. And we got a lot of people that are unhappy with the current situation. It's untenable. True. I don't think Jordan or Egypt, I think we both agree, it's probably more likely that a functional one-state or two-state solution would be arrived at than Egypt and Jordan would both agree to give up territory to the Palestinians. There's just no way that would ever happen.
I don't understand why. Again, I don't understand why.
What do you mean? Why would you want to give up part of your country?
Israelis feel the same way.
But the problem is Israelis are the ones occupying them. If Jordan was occupying them, we could be arguing against Jordan, but Israel took this territory, so now it's their territory to administer to.
In 2005, Israel did give it up. They just said goodbye and left.
No, they didn't give it up. They still are essentially, for all intents and purposes, occupying it.
How are they occupying it now? There's no, I mean, right now they're at war and there are Israeli troops
because
there.
Because they control everything that goes in and out of the country. True. They've got borders that they enforce with guns on land, and they've got the entire Mediterranean Sea that they block off all shipments going to Gaza. They control the airspace, the sea, the ports, and the ground shipments in and out. I mean, it's not, maybe technically it's not under occupation.
Yeah, but Egypt does the same thing.
Yeah, of course, because Egypt doesn't want the fucking Muslim Brotherhood and Palestinian terrorists coming in and fucking their shit up. But Egypt's not occupying the Gaza Strip. Israel is.
Egypt isn't occupying the Gaza Strip. They have a border with them that they enforce, but Egypt enforces the exact same border and the exact same blockade on the Mediterranean.
Egypt has a right to enforce their border. Israel is not enforcing a border. They're enforcing a territorial separation from land that they own.
They don't own the Gaza Strip.
Israel, of course
they gave it up. They left.
So is there a country in the Gaza Strip now? Do they have a right to their airspace?
They can declare a country all they want. Nobody cared at the time.
I don't believe that Gaza can declare themselves a country right now, number one.
Why couldn't they?
Because I don't think Israel would allow it.
True.
What do you mean? How do you allow or disallow someone declaring a country?
I mean, it
well, because you would have to relinquish rights to the land, I guess, in the eyes of the UN in order to create a new state.
They relinquished rights to the land. They left. They had nothing to do with it.
I don't think that is the case.
Nobody's. But they did.
They control all their airspace. They control all their incoming shipments on ground and sea.
They didn't for 2 years. Gaza had an international airport. They had full rights to the sea.
Sure, but they do
and then
now.
They started bringing in weapons.
If you blockaded a country like that, that would be illegal.
Damn, the Congress Kingdom of Poland had a lot of rights, within the Russian Empire before they got uppity and did an uprising, and then Russia had to punish it by taking stuff away from them. But apart from that, the Congress Kingdom was totally its own thing. Totally. Sure. Mm-hmm.
Legal. I'm pretty sure the only...
There was 2 years where they didn't blockade the country.
There might have been, and there's been 24 years or 20 years where they have blockaded it, or 19 years where they have blockaded it.
Okay, but I'm saying that doesn't stop them from declaring a country.
I don't think anybody would recognize them. I don't even think Israel would recognize them.
Okay, but if no one would recognize them, so you're saying they need Israel's permission to declare a country in the first place?
Yeah, because Israel essentially controls everything that goes in and out of that space right now. Yeah.
Okay, so if Israel
I think
controls
Israel even
everything-
controls. I think Israel even controls like the money that goes to Gaza from the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank.
No, the Palestinian Authority from the West Bank decides whether Gaza is going to get the money, and they stopped giving the money a really long time ago.
Yeah, but I think
It had
doesn't
that had
Israel
nothing to
play
do
a
with
big
Israel.
intermediary role there? I'm almost positive they do.
As part of the Oslo Accords, Israel takes in certain tax money for the Palestinians based on imports exports, and they relinquish that money to the Palestinians. But that has nothing to do with Gaza. The Palestinian Authority can give money to Gaza whenever they want. They just don't
Sure. Okay, so what? So
because they were kicked out.
just as a real quick final point, because I have to take off pretty soon. What do you think is the solution here? You think you think that Jordan and Jordan and Egypt should give up some land, and then that could be used to make a Palestinian state?
I'm saying that's my view if you want to have a peaceful solution. I don't think there's going to be a peaceful solution. So it doesn't matter if I want there to be or not. I don't believe there will be.
Okay. All right. Well, hey, listen, I appreciate your perspective at least. Thanks for the chat.
That's it.
And stay safe, be careful, okay?
You too.
Bye.
Stay safe, buddy.
I don't think that's very possible, but all right, listen, I love you guys. It's been fun. I'll be back tomorrow.
Oh my gosh. The end of the Destiny stream. How wonderful. I declare bankruptcy. True. That is how states work. Burp. Yo. Okay, that's it. We're gonna talk about some exciting topics now. We're gonna talk about something cute and exciting, like a new thing that South Korea is working on. But first I am going to get this. Wow, that Israel, guys, so delusional. Well, we all have our own little delusions, don't we? We all have our own little delusions. So, let me look for that thing that I'm looking for. Let me look diligently for the thing that I am looking for. And then I will okay, that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for some Southern Korean news. I had it somewhere around here. Oh, there we go. Damn. Here we go. Our favorite topic as of late. Artillery. And since I'm super Polish, I'm gonna go with a Polish source. Because you love it when I look through Polish sources and translate them. It adds a unique spin to the stream. It adds a unique spin to this whole thing. So as you may or may not know, artillery has been the hot topic of the world lately, especially in the Ukraine war. And so Korea apparently has developed a new type of 155 caliber shell, and it's supposed to be 50% more good. Isn't that exciting? South Korea has developed a new shell of the 155 caliber, and it's 50% more gooder. Now we're gonna just read the article and see. I mean, I'm gonna read it and I'm gonna translate it. And you're gonna get all excited for it because I know that's your favorite topic in the world. Artillery shells. One moment. I'm gonna... Where is that Destiny thing that we've just finished? There. Artillery shells. There we go. Your favorite topic in the world. Heroes in a half shell. Turtle power. True. Five with 155 millimeters calibers is a measure of how many times the caliber is the gun length. Yeah, 155 millimeters. Correct. South Korea begins production of their newest ammunition, artillery ammunition, which will go to Poland. Yes, of course. The only reason why this is relevant at all is because Poland, as always, Poland is like the center of the world, as you will soon see. So, oh wait, it might go to Poland, never mind. So it sort of defeats the shells from the west because it's apparently 50% more effective. New shell from South Korea. I mean, I assume that since it's a South Korean shell, it will probably also go to Ukraine, I assume. So 100 caliber 75 millimeter gun is 7,500 millimeter long, or 7.5 meters. Interesting. Okay. So South Korea will start mass producing its 155 millimeter shell, artillery shell, which will be... What's that? How do I even translate this word? One moment. I'm so unprepared for my own segment. Embarrassing. Yield. Okay. Upgraded yield, I guess. After it has been successfully developed. Minister Eom Dong-hwan said that the creation of the new shell sort of opens the way for the new shells to be exported alongside the artillery gun K9, which is basically a Korean gun. It is, yeah. As told by the Ukrainian press, Yonhap News Agency. The new 155mm extended range munition, ARM, have the range of 60 kilometers, 50% more than the maximum the standard shells of that caliber, which could be a game changer, I guess. 50% more. Donośność. Well, not range. Donośność is like, damn. There we go. Oh no, wait, it is. Yeah. It is basically range. Yeah, it is basically range, yeah. Yeah. 50% more range that the, 50% more that the new shell can reach. That could be a game changer, no? Like if the Russians could not have this sort of reach, and if Ukraine got a hold of shells that would have a lot more reach, 50% more, that could be a game changer. Because that would mean they could basically outrange them. So 50% more than the maximum for the standard shells of this caliber. The development of the ERM was supposed to be finished in 2023, alongside its readiness for combat. According to Punsang, the Seoul government have already ordered 2,000 of these shells, which will be delivered by the end of 2024. In talks with the military portal, Janes, the sort of representative of the company, has said that South Korea wants to order more shells. For Seoul, ERM is supposed to be a huge success when it comes to export for countries that use the K9 guns. And Poland is among the potential buyers of those shells. What is the Korean shell 155 millimeter ERM? Pongsang has developed ERM. Pongsang has been developing ERM ever since 2014, ever since the Revolution of Dignity. As a future munition for the artillery for the artillery K9 with the oh god, I'm forgetting my words, but don't worry, we'll be fine. Cannon. Oh god. How could I forget the word cannon? Cannon fodder. With the Cannon CN98 of the 52 caliber length. South Korea wanted a shell which can be precise and also hit targets from a very big distance from base munition, compared to base munition. Right now, the standard of maximal range of the West artillery of 155 millimeters, like the Polish AHS Crab, is about 40 kilometers, which is, by the way, something that has been given barrel. That works, barrel. which is the crab has been given to Ukraine by Poland, by the way. So that's interesting to know. ERM reaches 60 kilometer of sort of range, and it does it thanks to a couple of factors. First of all, a new sort of fuel, a new sort of additional fuel has been used for the rockets as permanent fuel, and that fuel sort of activates during the flight. Second of all, the weight of the shell has been lowered, which means the mass of the explosive has been lowered when compared to the old ammunition K307, which, if the shell is lighter, it also means it will be less of a strain on the soldiers to load, which we know that soldiers have back problems due to loading of the shells. We know that's a problem. In theory, it also lowers the power of the explosion, but the Koreans were able to choose a solution that keeps the power of the shell. And for example, in place of standard TNT, they could use a different type of explosion like octogen. And by doing that, they created a shell that can fly further and attack with terrible strength. That is very, very interesting, considering that, like, should Russia not get their hands on a shell with equivalent range, that could really prove to be a game changer, considering that if you have one side that has, logically speaking, if you have a side that has artillery with bigger range, then you could basically just outrange the enemy, stay out of the enemy's artillery range, and just shoot them without fearing the counterattack because they would be out of range. No? Like if the standard is 40 kilometer, let's say, then that means that if you're 60 kilometer away and you can shoot the enemy, then the enemy would just not reach you. South Korean government announced that the 155mm ERM extended range munition artillery ammunition is complete. The development and tested and ready to mass produce by Pyeongsan Company. Government officials said that through this mass production, the massive export of this special special ammunition can be easily expected. The range is 60 kilometer, which is 50% longer than the previous 40 kilometer ammunition. The Pyeongsan is well known for one of the world's best ammunition company. They produce every ammunition what we can imagine. Obviously, spotting is still a thing. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is, of course. But it also means that you would sort of have more time to retreat, right? If you can hit the enemy from a higher range than they can shoot you from, then you basically, even if you get spotted, you have a lot more time to retreat from the position, since the enemy cannot just shoot back at you right away. They have to get in range, right? So that would basically, I don't know, in my amateur mind, it would automatically like up the survivability of soldiers, since they would just have more time to switch position after shooting without the fear of immediate counterattack, since again they would be out of range. But yeah, spotting is sort of a problem still, yeah. Will the Korean IERM go to Poland? There is no doubt that Seoul. There is no doubt that Seoul has ordered to the creation of these shells with bigger range. They have thought about the conflict with North Korea. The army of North Korea needs munition that could allow them. The South Korea needs munition that would allow them to fight equally with Northern Korean systems M1908 Koksan with 60-kilometer range. However, DAPA has announced that South Korea wants to turn its new ERM 155mm into an export success. So they want to. Poland could be a potential client as one of the biggest importers of the Korean K9s. And the current Ministry of Defense says that the contracts with South Korea will be upheld. Now it speaks about the two deals that were made in the past. K9 Thunder is a Korean god of war. K9 Thunder is the basic self-operated samobieżny. It's sort of self-moving cannon of the NATO caliber 155mm. It can fire up to 6 shells per minute, and after stopping, K9 needs just half a minute till being able to shoot again. Oh, there is never a silver bullet. You can only just gain advantages, right? There's never a single thing that's like a silver bullet. You can only stack up advantages, right? Sort of. This part is still endangered if they are alive soldiers, for example. So the K9A1 is an upgraded version, which went into service in 2018. Yeah, I'm agreeing with you. Oh, that was my way to agree with you. I wasn't arguing that you said I was. It has a new system of guiding fire and noctovision sort of system. In addition, the Koreans have implemented an additional system of power to all K9A1 in the Polish army are equipped with the Phonet sort of system of communication. The Topaz kit for sort of the Topaz thing for for war thing for sort of I don't know. My brain is war management kit. and a machine gun, 20.7 millimeter WKB BM. That demo clip just makes me want to think of Ultraman. What demo clip? Hello, Technica. K9PL is a Polish modification of K9A1, which also has additional systems of Polish production. What we're talking about is a warning system, Obra-free, which detects the enemy laser sort of, I don't know, laser radiation from anti tank units, and it throws a grenade shield. It throws a smoke grenade shield. Apart from that, the K9PL is supposed to also have additional projectors for the crew and some additional energy thing. Those are the parameters, for technical parameters for the K9A1 Thunder. Here you go. This is like the super. Look at this. This is the K9 Thunder. Ah, okay. So these are the specs. How do you like this? Are you excited for the new K9s? Are you excited to get them rolling? Are you excited for what's about to happen in the world of tanks and the world of artillery and stuff like that? You're excited for it? Because dogs are cute. Especially the Soviet Union has been using K9s a lot as anti-tank things. They would strap bombs onto dogs and let them loose and let them explode at targets. I'm not joking. The USSR actually did do that. That's actually not a joke. That's actually a strategy that the USSR did do. Strapping bombs onto dogs and letting them run at targets and explode. Just so you think that I'm making a weird, cruel jokes about animal abuse. No, it's not a joke. It was a genuine thing that was done. That wouldn't work very well. It was done. It was done. I'm sure War Thunder crowd is hyped. It's true. The hype is real and the excitement is off the charts, which is why we should also talk about how Poland is about to become the biggest military power in the universe. That's right. Poland is about to become the biggest military might in the universe. Grim. True. I mean, Russia still keeps up with the tradition of throwing away lives as cannon fodder, so I've heard about the dog thing. The dog thing is real. We might do a thing about it someday. Oh, Jesus Christ. Okay, I'm gonna have to solve this crap. Oh, it's done. Okay. Yeah, okay. Jesus. Okay. Can I refresh now? I turned it off. Oh, for God's sake, I hate this so much. This is such BS. I turned it off. Okay, now it's working. Okay. Or will you into space? Of course, always. So Poland is about to become the biggest military giant in the entire universe. The Brits, the United Kingdomers, the Britbongers, have been praising the Polish military, saying that it's the bestest in the universe. The Polish military will have more tanks than 5 big countries in Europe. Damn. Poland is having the fastest and most ambitious program of building up military. Such a program has not been seen in Europe for tens of years, which, in my opinion, Poland should sort of, logically speaking, divert some of that to Ukraine, but I don't know. I would think that a big priority would be to let Ukraine win, but I mean, we are doing this to make a big deterrent that will make Putin not attack Poland, said the ex-Minister of Defense Mariusz Błaszczak, who has started the big expansion on Polish military. Do you know what would be the biggest deterrent for Putin not to attack Poland? Putin losing against Ukraine, that would be a pretty big deterrent. That would be a pretty big deterrent. Russia losing in Ukraine. That would be the best deterrent. The press has stressed that. That is a very interesting sentence, by the way. The press has sort of stressed that in Poland there is a very wide sentiment among society that the Western countries in Europe should have opened their eyes sooner when it came to the Russian aggression. Times has pointed that Donald Tusk, who at the end of the year became prime minister, has promised to keep up the high level of expenditure for defense, but also has done a few big changes. The newspaper has reminded that just within the last 10 years, the Polish military has doubled its number of soldiers from 95,000 to 200,000 soldiers. 148,000 being regular armed forces, 38,000 being the soldiers forming the so-called territorial defense in 2015, and it's about to be upgraded to 300,000 soldiers, which would make Poland a country with the biggest land army in Europe, NATO. It would be the biggest European NATO state army. That's right. Poland will have the biggest land army of all the European NATO states. What is also planned is getting more tanks. So the base tanks would 1,600. 1,000 of them are supposed to be bought in South Korea. So Poland would have more tanks than Great Britain, France, Germany, Spain, and Italy. It is a sort of it is predicted that Poland will spend over 3% of its budget, of its GDP, on defense. By some estimates, Poland will actually even spend 4% on its defense, which would be the highest level of defense expenditure in the entirety of NATO. Poland is in a delicate moment in history. We are doing this to create a level of deterrence that will really make Putin think twice before attacking Poland, said the ex-Minister of Defense Mariusz Błaszczak in his talk with the Times, during whose tenure the beginning of expanding the Polish military had begun. It is high time for other countries in Europe to do the same. I think the biggest deterrent against Russia once again would be for Russia to lose in Ukraine, but what do I know? I am aware that the big expenditure for defense can be a big strain on the budget, but we are in a very delicate moment in history of our continent. Nobody should have any doubt that we cannot save money on defense. He said. He also said that this goes the same for Germany. Okay, this is a little bit of Polish politics, which I will have to explain, because this is the ex-Minister of Defense of Poland, okay? Which means that this person is from the Law and Justice Cabinet. And the Law and Justice Cabinet is very anti-German. And so it will criticize Germany. Let's bring up some facts. When it comes to aid for Ukraine, I'm pretty sure in Europe, Germany is the biggest. It's a thing that Donald Tusk has said during his recent visit to Germany. Germany is the most active contributor to Ukrainian aid in absolute numbers. Germany is. And he added that Poland is the most active contributor to Ukrainian aid when it comes to relative numbers per capita. And that Germany and Poland should then sort of take on the responsibility for being the countries that are the most active helpers, and to be responsible for spreading this sort of attitude throughout all of Europe. So keep that in mind when I read you the next statement of Mariusz Błaszczak about Germany, that he is from the old anti-German sort of government. This is a bit of context that I feel that needed to be sort of said. So he said that during the last months, Germany has not contributed enough when it comes to help, and that Germany has been only pretending to offer Ukraine military help. Although I will admit that some of the aid packages that Germany has been announcing has been pretty lackluster. One of the packages with weapon packages offered Ukraine the amount of shells that would not even last for full 24 hours of shooting. So I guess on the one hand you have the anti-German sentiment of the old Law and Justice Party, but on the other hand, it has to be said that there has been a bit of lackluster sort of packages happening lately. We're at such a sensitive moment in the history of our continent that no one should doubt that investment in defense cannot be spared. A few words for the Times on Law and Justice's plan to create NATO's largest land army in Europe. I mean, of course they're gonna jerk off the Law and Justice Party government. But let's remember that the new government is basically continuing the policy of arming Poland. There we go. Even the Times that had the interview with the guy has recognized what I've just recognized. The Times think that the comment of Błaszczak is part of the longer critique from the Law and Justice Party of Germany. But it does also reflect the wider societal feeling that Western Europe should have opened its eyes sooner when it came to the topic of the invasion of Russia and Russian aggression in general. Okay, we might read this later. As Times explains, the Polish arms program, which had started at the end of 2018, has two main objectives. The first is to tie Poland with the US as the main guarantor of Polish security. Well, that one's tying with the US as the main guarantor of security, huh? Well, I wonder how that will go once Trump becomes president and decides that Poland isn't doing enough of whatever to be I don't know, helped. So tying with the US as the main guarantor of Polish security by ordering a lot of advanced US equipment. And the second is to get more numbers. The second is to invest into numbers. While Western Europe has invested billions into advanced technologically, but also extremely expensive systems, Poland has realized a long time before the Russian invasion in Ukraine that in European land warfare, numbers matter. A lot of self-acclaimed experts have claimed that modern warfare will be mainly waged in cyberspace, using light infantry and systems that do crewless without a crew systems. But as reality has shown, they were mistaken. The land forces are still the most important elements of armed forces, Błaszczak said. The promises of Donald Tusk. Thank you, fake Alec Kyle Parker, for always being here. Thank you. Where's the Twitch chat? There you go. the promises of Donald Tusk. Times have noticed that Donald Tusk, who have taken over as prime minister, has promised to keep the sort of policy of armament going, but he has also implemented a few pretty big changes. Tusk suggested that he might forget about the plan of creating the central port of communication, of building one, which might play a pretty important role for European arms logistics, and also has sort of ordered a big checking of the orders made from South Korea to see if Poland can even afford to buy all the stuff from South Korea. Some have suggested that Poland's new administration might actually prioritize building a fleet by using war ships and underwater ships bought from Germany. Thank you, Zoshalex. So yeah, Poland is about to become the champion of Poland. Poland is the champion of Poland. Although I would be happy if some part of this article mentioned, I don't know, planning to send a lot of nice stuff to Ukraine. That would have made my day, personally. Submarines, you're right, yeah. Submarines, yellow submarines. So what do you think? Do you feel like you're more knowledgeable about Poland now? I don't know. I still think that the best strategy would be to arm, but also send a lot of it to Ukraine. I don't know. Like, I'm worried a bit. I'm worried with the language of we must prepare for Putin's attack and to deter him from attacking us. This sort of language really worries me because it sort of makes it sound like Europe is semi-preparing for Ukraine losing and like sort of, you know. I know you need to be prepared for all scenarios and that technically speaking, like it is the smartest thing to do to sort of be ready for the possibility of Ukraine losing, but the language that has been in use recently has too sort of, I don't know. We are arming to deter Putin, but that would assume that Ukraine would lose, sort of. You know? Like, I'm really worried about this language of we must arm ourselves so that we deter Putin from attacking us, because it flies very close to outright saying we are preparing ourselves for Ukraine to fall. And I don't like that. I don't like that at all. I would have liked it more if the country said we are arming ourselves so that we can send more stuff to Ukraine and to make sure that it wins. Jesus. Even if you completely ignore the moral aspect of needing to help people that are... I mean, yeah. And the things have been tough in Avdiivka, not Avdiivka. You do not pronounce it as Avdiivka, pronounce it as Avdiivka. World War III would be Putin's final FU to the world before the devil drags him back to hell. Jesus. Actually, let's check. Let's look at some Ukrainian news while we're at it. Avdiivka. Let's look at some developments, shall we? Why not? Why the heck not? Oh, Jesus. Avdiivka is a pile of rubble right now. I mean, it's still sort of fighting. It's not been taken yet, as far as I know. Ukraine will need approximately $9 billion to rebuild its cultural objects and its tourist industry. The Baltic states, speaking of the language that I'm not fond of, the Baltic states are preparing themselves for a Russian invasion. The language around this whole thing is becoming really, really grim, in my opinion. Because once again, if Baltic states are preparing themselves for a Russian invasion, that would indicate that they're preparing themselves for Ukraine to fall. Again, this is very disappointing, and this is very indicative of how, should Ukraine fall, that would just be such an incredible testament to the incompetence of the West in handling this whole thing. I'm going to be quite blunt here. Like, Ukraine has done so well with what it's had, with the horrible trickling down, like drip, 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 drip type of assistance that it received. Like, I don't know. We even have a tweet about it. Here we go. So disappointing. But let's see. There's even a map. Beautiful. There's even a map. How cool. How cool. How cool is that? That we have a map. Baltic countries are preparing for a Russian invasion, the Times reports. The Baltic countries are strengthening 1,000-kilometer stretch of their eastern borders, the most military vulnerable part of NATO's flank, the so-called Baltic Defense Line, which consists of fences and more than 1,000 bunkers. And there we go. Possible access for Russian invasion, where the bunkers' defenses will be most densely placed. Boom, 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 boom. Lithuania, Vilnius, boom, boom, from two sides from Kruleviec. There we go. We're seeing more and more scenarios which sort of make the assumption that we have to prepare for Ukraine falling. Oh, Jesus. Damn. So, as we know, the sanctions, as much as people like to say that, have not hit Russia, and as much as some people like to say that actually the sanctions have hit more the US than Russia, which is one of the more hilarious statements that I've heard in a while. The sanctions actually have hit Russia, which is why Russia is looking for more and more, I guess, sources for funding for its grand invasion. And one of them is its new bill. I guess, yeah, the new bill. Vladimir Putin has signed a new bill which is called the Bill of Hunting Down Traitors and Evildoers. Crooks. Cheats. Okay, crooks. So the Bill of Hunting Down Crooks and Traitors. So what the bill is about is that it will allow the state to confiscate any possessions, houses, money, any sort of anything that a person has, if they are deemed a traitor and a crook. So anyone who is accused of criticizing the war might basically lose everything now. Their house, their money assets, their, I don't know, family jewels, no pun intended, and etc. That's basically a thing that is now allowed to happen with impunity. I love how those lovely countries that some people claim to be so wonderful and so amazing, like Russia and Belarus, have been on a big streak of signing new bills that would take more and more rights from citizens away. Like the Belarus bill that basically allows the military to shoot civilians without any legal repercussion. And the new Russia bill that basically allows anybody's assets to be confiscated if they're deemed a traitor and a crook because they criticize the war. Lovely. Oh yeah. To add to the bill, any Russian who has left the country during the invasion and have left their assets behind, those assets can be now confiscated because people that left the country are traitors. Lovely. Oh yeah, and of course, all the trials are happening not publicly, so you know what that means. The Marshal of the Duma, Vyacheslav Volodin, has said last month that this bill is aimed at crooks and traitors, which are now spitting at our soldiers' backs that have betrayed their homeland. The traitors and crooks, they will lose everything. Lovely. Russia is such a lovely country. We all knew that from the beginning. What lovely new laws Russia is preparing. Well, it's already not been, it's not just been prepared, it's been already signed by Vladimir. Speaking of weirdos and crazies, Speaker of the U.S. House of Representatives Mike Johnson said that no one will force him and the Republicans in the lower house to support a bill with foreign aid, including for Ukraine, without articles on the security of the U.S. border. He announced this during a press conference in Congress. This is just idiotic. This is just so idiotic and against U.S. interests that I don't even know what to say to this. It's like shooting yourself in the face to, I don't know, appease an old man with orange skin. Oh my god. Mm-hmm. Oh. Interesting. Jesus. Let's see. Aww. Oh, there we go. That's it. That is from today, I guess. True. Fake Alec Cal Parker. True and real. You're being true and real. The Russians have gathered 50,000 soldiers in the region of Avdiivka. This information has been given to us through the representatives of the Tavria group. Dmitro Wychov. The situation on the front line is dynamic. It could change from hour to hour, says Wychova, and has assured that in case of the main supply line in case of the cutting of the main supply line in Avdiivka for the Ukrainian forces, alternative routes of supply will be opened, which I'm really curious about this statement, considering that that is basically like that road which is talked about is considered a lifeline for the support of Avdiivka. So I really wonder what sort of alternative routes of supply Lehova is sort of alluding to here. How would that work? The representative of Kremlin asked about the news of yet another Russian ship being sank called Cesar Kulikov, has sent the journalists to the Ministry of Defense, of National Defense in Russia, refused to comment. What a coward. Russia just keeps losing ships. Like, how much percent of its fleet has Russia lost by now? People keep throwing the number 20, but it has to be bigger by now. It has to be more than 20% by now, considering how Russia just keeps losing its ships. It has to be more than 20 by now. It just has to be. Most of the NATO countries do not fit the criteria as lined up by Donald Trump. So basically, Donald Trump would just abandon most of NATO, it seems, because most of NATO does not pay enough. What is this? Americans reveal what Biden has to do to earn their support. Let's see. She really wants to turn NATO into a racketeering business. Yeah, of course. Of course! That is the thing that you do. Free problems of Andrzej Duda, the most lonely man. Oh gosh. Oh no. Poor Andrzej Duda. The most lonely man. The most lonely man. The most lonely of men. The Americans, the will of the people, the will of the people. Start slideshow. We're gonna watch it. Watch it as a certain YouTuber said, watch it. Americans reveal what Biden has to do to earn their support. Pundits suggest President Biden faces a steep uphill battle to retain the White House, with polls showing a stubbornly low approval rating and widespread doubts about his ability to handle the economy. The Onion asked Americans what Biden has to do to earn their vote, and this is what they said. Wait, didn't Biden actually handle the economy much better than Trump? Am I mistaken here? Am I mistaken about Biden handling the economy better than Trump? I'm not American. I don't know. How should I know? Dive off the Washington Monument into a pinned glass of water. I think it'd be really nice if you could learn everyone in the population's name. Make Libra season a federal holiday. I mean, it's The Onion. I know what The Onion is. I am familiar with The Onion. Thank you. My goodness. People don't. You underestimate my power. I like to see Jill experiment with burgundy highlights and wavy blunt bob. Crush the middle class once and for all. True. I want him to shrink down to 3 inches tall and climb inside my mouth. That would show me he has what it takes to be president for 4 more years. It will also turn me on, like, a lot. Thank you for the $20, fake Alec Cal Parker. Thank you. Thank you. Misgender a transgender teenager on live TV. What the? Okay. Oh, of course. Of course. Seems most experts agree Biden has done a good job, but there is currently inflation that is convincing many people Biden's economy is shit despite it being objectively good. I see. Misgender a transgender teenager on live TV. Bring our boys back from Vietnam. True. Well, my wife and I have been looking to spice things up with a third in the bedroom. Oh my goodness. Oh my god. Some snake handling would be impressive. Quite simple. Decode the following riddle before this hourglass runs out. What is full but always empty, short as seconds but tall as trees? What is few and still quite plenty? What is gone but here for thee? Damn. Show us what his nipples look like so we can see what kind of man he is. Ugh. National mourning announcements delivered via skywriting. I see. Put my face on a coin and my bare ass on the other side. Oh no. Oh no. I mean, there are some people with pretty nice asses out there. Those people deserve to have their asses on coins. I'm gonna be quiet now. I'm gonna shut up now. I'm gonna shut up now and forever. he must rescind his December 15, 2023 executive order proclaiming National Wright Brothers Day, or I will set myself on fire in front of the White House. He needs to start putting what he tries on back on to the hangers. He brings an armful of like 30 crop tops over to try on, and it's like, first of all, we have a 15 item limit, and you know that, but then he leaves them strewn all over the dressing room, and he never buys anything. The article mentioned asses. How can I am being wholesome. I am being wholesome. I'm being wholesome. I do my best. Okay, enough. That's enough. He needs to stop lying. He's constantly claiming that he invented the thing where you put 2 Pringles in your mouth and one's like a duck. What? He needs to stop lying. He's constantly claiming that he invented the thing where you put 2 Pringles in your mouth and one's at once like a duck bill. I have to do that on stream, by the way. I have to buy Pringles and do the duck thing. That's my... Being a duck is my whole brand, and I never did the Pringle thing. I would like to be promoted to senior vice president. That's fair. A bouquet of flowers, or even a text reading thinking of you, or the words I love you, I care about you, unprompted every once in a while would be nice. I mean, yeah, that would be nice. That would definitely make me vote for Biden, even if I can't. Marry my mom. Gee. Collab with the Duck Nana when? Like, you mean with President Sunday? I keep asking him to come on, but he never wants to. If you want, I can ask him right now. Oh, the almighty Duck Nana that resides in his bookshelf. I mean, when will the Duck Nana contact me? That's the question. He needs to stop emailing me and threatening to spoil Bones. He knows I'm only on the first season. What is Bones? I don't even know what that is. I cannot be spoiled, Bones. I don't even know what that is. I'll definitely go for him if the other choices ends up being a one. What the oh, beautiful. Hello, Kittany. We are doing an onion. Changement, foe, and now, yes, you have it, Mr. President. Focus on forum. Please. I'm not gonna read this out loud, okay? I'm not gonna read it out loud. Screw you. No, I refuse. I refuse to read this out loud. Jesus. Why does everything have to be so horrible? fake Kyle Parker tells me Lucy be wholesome, and then sends me the Onion article with this on it. Thank you. Thank you. You're not making me be very wholesome, are you? My butt comment was far more wholesome than this. Okay? My ass comment compared to this is like innocent. I'd like to see him reach up toward the sky so much that he lifts off the ground. Then he should fly into outer space and then come back down again. But I understand that might be asking a lot. Okay. I wanted to man up and finally ask me to be a son. Adopt me, goddammit. Explain the economy in terms I can understand by building a roller coaster on the White House's west lawn that goes up and down according to how our economy is doing. Although, as I'm explaining it, I'm realizing I'm not totally sure how this would work. Like the tracks would be on pistons and rise and lower or something? I saw it in a dream and it made me a lot more sense then. Okay. How big is this slide thing? How long is this? Ring a bell so we all know when it's mute time. You could take this pillow, put it over my face, and keep it there until I stop. Okay. Break the news to my 11-year-old son that his mother and I are filing for divorce? Damn. Biden? That Joe Biden? Surely he isn't going to win the nomination, right? Gee. And that's it. You've made it this far. You've made it this far. Americans explain why Tucker Carlson should be Trump's vice president. So I've done it. I've done the deed. I've done the thing. Are you happy? Are you happy I've done the thing? I've done the thing. The thing is done. It's done. It's done. It's a done deal. How long have we been streaming or whatever? My expenses have flown off the rocker because I now go to therapy privately, which is expensive as heck. It's 300 zlotys per session, and the therapist said that it can only work if I go once per week. Someone here that watches the dude that was the other time, so I can explain the shotgun on the what? Watches who? What are you talking about? I don't know what you mean. We've been streaming for 3 hours 55 minutes. So sort of, not yet, unfortunately. Okay. I'm thinking I am tired. We've done super therapy today. It's been draining to my faculties. We've done an amazing stream tonight. Maybe, I hope. It's been lovely. You've been lovely. You've been a lovely audience. So I guess I'll see you tomorrow. Yeah, I covered Destiny's debate / discussion, quite honestly. That was the thumbnail. The thumbnail was with Destiny. How shameful that even though we're married, he won't even spend a single dollar on my what's it called? On my therapy thing. I know why. Because he likes... Okay, I'm not gonna continue the joke. I'm not gonna... Well then, I'll see you. Love and solidarity. We love our non-binary siblings. Boom.